Hey, welcome everybody. Give this thing some time to start, and I'll verify my streams here, make sure we're online. Well, it looks like we got somebody here. Welcome everybody. Hang on. All right. Well, the seating area isn't that comfortable where I'm at. So I've decided to do this like my own private John and Yoko without my own Yoko. So I'm going to be doing my my presentation from bed. Those unfamiliar, there was this thing that John Lennon and Yoko Ono did where they kind of were doing like a protest from bed, and they invited a whole bunch of reporters to join them. So I guess you could say it's in that spirit. And let's see what we got here. All right. And when we have some people join, all right, then I'm going to do something a little bit outside the ordinary today. For folks in the chat, all right, let's see here. Well, just as a quick briefer here, today I'm going to play this article right now just to get something on the screen while I wait for more people to hop on. And let's see here. And then what I'd like to do is just have a larger discussion about, instead of you guys like going, just listening to me talk about these energy concepts, I want to provide you with at least some tangible data as far as how that's achieved.
Everyone, I did a live stream about it.
So that you kind of understand how it works, so that, so I'm not just some guy that goes, yeah, you can do that. That's not what I'd like to be. I'm trying to actually prove these things are tangible, have a basis in science and biology. By that, I mean that when thoughts become things, that phraseology is what's happening today relative to religion. And what you're seeing, I believe, is a collective hive mind manifestation of religion across the board. It's especially strong, though, in the religions that are the most practiced and have the highest concentrations of bioenergetic influencers. That bioenergetic influence can be achieved in various ways. Some people have a born gift of bioenergetic influence. So their particular talent is just something that they've inherited at a bloodline basis, which has a lot to do with the unique combination of metals within their blood. Some people have more copper or iron or whatever else inside their blood and in the hemoglobin. And so what I think that translates to, and I'd like to be able to do more research in this to support the hypothesis or disprove it either way. I mean, I'm not necessarily trying to prove something exists if it doesn't. But when you read enough information, you do enough of your own sort of, research on it, and you begin to form a hypothesis and you see it prove itself over and over again. Hell, even that, I guess, could be thoughts become things on some level if you think about it. And so as time's gone by, I've just learned over and over again that this is a very true thing. And it's just particularly strong, I think, within faith right now, where around Easter, especially, I became very convinced that we're actually right now we're at the where things in the Bible are actually manifesting at a nearly identical level that was in the Bible. I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday about this exact topic. It's been a theme actually in multiple conversations I've had with many people lately, but especially those who have a stronger interest in spirituality, and oftentimes where you do things like cross spirituality and spiritualism, I should say specifically, with Christianity, which isn't always a popular thing. Some people believe that all forms of spiritualist belief systems have their roots in things closer to Satan or Lucifer, whatever your concept of those things are. Either I don't, I guess, guys, you'll have to forgive me on this one because I think somebody made a point the other day that a lot of people misunderstand even what Lucifer's role is relative to Satan. I agree. That's something that I should be more conscientious about, communicating it better in these things here. I guess it's because it's only recently that I've ever thought of, just in the last few years, I'm sort of trained in my mind to call the Bible lore, or I call it, stories. Again, I still think that that's an accurate way to describe it, even if it's the quote truth, because it's been modified so many times that regardless of its modifications or which Bible you accept as quote true or you think is a corruption, I think the way it's manifesting in modern times makes all that irrelevant. It's just that it's a blueprint or an architecture of what's going to be happening, or what rather is happening right now. And so I'm going to play this clip really quick. It's only a couple minutes. I'll probably play it again later so people can whatever. That way, this is relevant for the future, because whatever stems from this conversation or series of streams that I'm going to be doing up until I head to the next location is I want there to be, I want people to be inspired by this information, because I'm going to show you something that's pretty cool that demonstrates the link between belief, energy centers that are pyramidal. In this particular case, I'll be using the Bosnian Pyramid as an example, but I do believe that that other structures that are relative to churches and things like that, you can do a nearly identical study and prove very similar results. Why do some people, after they go to church, feel good, aside from that it's just or guys, for that matter, I want everybody to feel included in this discussion, seriously. So whether you feel better after you go to a church, a synagogue, a mosque, a temple, it matters not. I'm trying to show that there's a tangible science here. I guess that the reason why I focus more on Christianity isn't just because of a belief system factor. It's because I think that Eastern religions and Eastern mysticism already sort of acknowledge this exact thing that I'm talking about, and it's studied closer within their groups. People in India, for example, have a very deep intrinsic understanding of this at a very, I think it's a pretty common knowledge, the things that I'm talking about. Like, they wouldn't even think this is particularly remarkable if you're a person from there and spent your whole life there. I would also say the same thing about a lot of Chinese culture, and other Asian cultures. They have a greater understanding of like acupuncture points, the biofield that the body has, like, like you can access other parts of the body through the tips of their fingers and things like that. Poking something here could actually create what do you call it? A referred signal to another part of the body, just as that part of the body can actually transmit signals up into your hands, where you can measure it or see signs of the energy flow back and forth between the two parts. So what I'd like to do then is just very briefly play you that clip. I'm going to let some people join. I know it's, guys, it's middle of the day, middle of the week. A lot of people are at work, so I get that. But what I would like to do is get a larger discussion going here. And then as people join the chat, I might be, covering some of the same material a little bit, because this is more important for the now and less for the later. Okay. So I'm going to play this really quick and I'll be right back.
A week and a half ago, and one of everyone, I did a live stream about a week and a half ago, and one of the people in the chat recommended that I do an environmental and energy study on a church, which I thought was a great idea. I had considered it, but like that really made me think about this is one of the best ways we can work together to do something positive right now with all of this negativity going on around us within the media cycle and everything else. Just something better for us to focus our attention on that actually has a benefit for humanity. And so I was wondering, of those of you who might have been involved with the chat or follow my material, would anybody be interested in performing one of these energy studies? Because I'm kind of in limbo right now about where I want to go next and what's available out there. And it seemed like there was some interest in some folks in different areas, and this would really kind of help me focus my attention on the area that I should go to. So if you could contact me if that's of interest to you, and it would basically just be involving a helionosis LM4 life meter, some EM meters, and a BioWeld GDV system that measures life energy from both environments, water, as well as humans. So I could take the biofield measurements of people before and after they enter the church, and also measure the church while a sermon or whatever else is going on. And I would open this up to all faiths. It doesn't have to be a Christian church per se. It could be anything. Yeah, like if you're in a synagogue or even a mosque or a temple of like a Buddhist temple, I mean, I'm open to a study of all these things, because what I've learned is that within the architecture of these churches oftentimes, and it would have to be one that was designed for this, just so you know, that would be I mean, we could do it in any type of environment, but it'd be important for it to be more of a classic design church that was designed specifically to amplify human energy. So you're looking for things with steeples that have this sort of pyramidal energy model, things that have higher peaks and things like that to their architecture, where it was part of the design. And if you're interested in that, I would encourage you to contact me in my details that I'm going to leave below. And please do it sooner than later, because I really got to figure out what the next step is. And that would really help me decide. So thank you. I appreciate your time and look forward to hearing from you.
All right. And then this is my contact information I'm putting in the chat. And that's for folks that want to know more about what this study is. As far as like serious inquiries, folks, I'm looking for people that are actually like, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's do that. Because I'd really like to get it going sooner than later. I feel like we have like work to do here on this, I guess you could say, physical plane. There's just something that I've been feeling lately that nearly any time I'm getting close to doing something like this, and it's like I start to think seriously about it. This was brought up to my attention, I think about 2 weeks ago when I was in a live stream, and God, I wish I knew who said that. Was it Susan? I want to make sure that they get credit for it, so I'll find where that was inside the live chat. But somebody said, you know, have you considered doing that? And yes, I have actually considered doing it before. It's just that I wanted to make sure that that I had, you know, an actual good case study. And I was actually, sadly, I was in an area not that long ago that had some pretty magnificent churches in it. You know, a lot of Catholic churches in particular with amazing construction. And the ones that are like that are the ones that have the best energy signatures. So rather than just talk about this, I'm going to bring up, hang on here. Well, you know what? It just occurred to me, like, this is why. Oh, wow. Yeah, like if you try to get my email in the chat because of the way it like splits up the letters and everything, that's really freaky. Why does it do that? Well, you obviously can't just cut and paste it. So just remember, you've got to put the whole thing in as Gabriel Cruz Research, like one word, at iCloud.com. And all right. So what's the way that we measure human energy as well as environmental energy? Well, the devices that I would be using, I'll start off with this, and I'm going to probably go over this material again as more people join. But this is one of the devices that I've used to both measure human energy and do environmental energy readings. It's called the BioWell. It's a GDV camera. I can read you the description really quick here so that I'm not just like going blah, blah, but the BioWell GDV camera is a revolutionary, non-intrusive way to measure human energy fields using a specialized camera and software system. BioWell has been developed by the team of Dr. Karatov and brings the powerful technology known as gas discharge visualization, GDV, or electrophotonic imaging, EPI, to market in a more accessible way than ever before. It was developed together with US partners. The product consists of a desktop camera and accompanying software, which allows a user to quickly and easily conduct human energy scans. When a scan is conducted, a weak electrical current is applied to their fingertip for less than a millisecond. In response to the stimulus, fingertips emit electrons, which are striking and exciting air molecules. Excited air molecules create gas discharge or glow. This glow is captured by the video camera, and the digital image of the glow is processed by the BioWell software to show energy and stress evaluations. Each scan returns a wealth of meaningful information to provide you with a truly holistic view of the state of your well-being. The intersection of the fingertips glow created in BioWell software is based on the concept of acupuncture points and is verified by more than 20 years of clinical studies by hundreds of medical doctors and researchers with many thousands of patients. The scanning process is quick, easy, and non-intrusive. You get real time feedback on factors affecting your energy state. You each scan in a variety of interesting ways with up to 9 result display options. With the BioWell accessories like Sputnik sensor, water sensor, or BioWell glove, measure energy of environment, human emotions, and water energies. All right. And so, I have all of those probes. I have the Sputnik sensor, I have the water probe, and the glove. And these are all ways, for example, so this is the chart that it produces, this one you see right here. It basically creates a map of your biofield like all around. So it's not the same thing as aura photography. I would argue it's probably a little bit more science-based than even that. Although I don't have any problems with Kirlian aura photography. I just don't have the system that does exactly what that is. So I don't want to confuse an aura with a biofield because it's different conceptually. But what this meter does, or what this camera does, I should say, is that it'll actually output a chart of your biofield. And so in theory, or not theory, but let me explain to you in practice what I would like to do. I would like to take this device as well as the Helionosis LM4, which I'll put up a description of that in a little bit, and other meters too. I would actually like to have even more equipment than I do now to really do this, but I have to start somewhere. And what I could do is those who are familiar with my LM4 helionosis measurements, something, maybe that's a good idea. I should probably play some of that material to give you an idea of like some of the things that I learned. And I know that really excites a lot of people. For example, I found out in the middle of the Nevada, well, it was actually the Sierra Nevada mountains, but it was technically, I believe, in California, not far from the Manzanar segregation camp, where there was a lot of trauma there inside the soil. And it's not that far away from Lone Pine, California also. And it was out there. This is where they get Sierra Nevada, or rather, it's in the Sierra Nevadas, but it's where they get, what do you want to call it? Crystal Geyser water. So the Crystal Geyser is a brand of like bottled water that, a lot of people get at stores. I don't know about you, but I've bought a lot of it myself. It's pretty decent water. Not trying to do a commercial here or anything. But if you saw where they got it from, it really is out in the middle of the desert. There's this big, whatever of water out there, this body of water that's in the middle of the desert. And near it, you can see some degree of tree growth and things like that. But by and large, it's like a real desert. There's not a whole lot going on out there, and not many people live there. And the town's called Olancha, if I remember correctly. So I was out there, and I had basically been trying to use my Helionosis life meter for over a year to do soil studies. And I'm telling you, every single time I try to do something involving measuring a tree or soil studies in any significant way, I have all kinds of bizarre hell wreaked in my life. It's really strange how threatening this information is to certain people. It would just be like distraction, incident, problem. And so now I've just figured it's right now, I think with the way things are going, we just need to have sort of like a unified front that's just going to decide to like do this and not be intimidated and not let anything slow us down. And you have a person in front of you here that has equipment that can do it. And I don't want to see this all go to waste. I don't want to see these years of research just go down the drain because of, just some nonsense. Okay. So let's all like think about what we can do if you're interested in actually proving that and providing a bridge between spirituality and science. I mean to say that if you're a believer, if you're a Christian, or if you're a devout of anything, if you're a devout Jewish person, a devout Muslim, if you're a devout Buddhist, whatever it is, and you've seen evidence in your own life of that you're experiencing something real and not just a story in a book that someone made you believe. This is how we actually show people that even our rigid, even atheists, I would argue. I would bet you that a person that right now who identifies as an atheist, after they saw the research and it really pans out, they couldn't be atheist anymore. I think it would affect them that strongly where they would understand exactly what I'm talking about because it appeals to that part of their brain. They're looking for nothing but science, numbers, measurements, tangible data, and this would actually provide that. And if I haven't done it already in my research for those people, my hopes would be that this would at least help them understand why I take people's faith seriously, because it does. It's thoughts become things. When you get a whole group of people into a church together, it amplifies those thoughts. It amplifies their ability to manifest it into physical reality because everything begins in the biofield and resonates downward into the physical body. If a good example is what I'd like you to do is think about this. Taking that chart that I had, and it's underneath me right now, so let me get this out of here. I use it to stabilize my computer. All right. So think about this process here, like I've shown you. Let me expand this a little bit. All right. Within human brainwave, you have the pineal gland that's creating that 3D spectrum that surrounds the body and the brain. And so what I'm suggesting to you is once you understand that this process is creating this biofield, and that these biofields are like the 3D reality visualized. All right. It's like the plasma field that your thoughts attach to, you can visualize it. What's coming out of your pineal gland, because this is the liquid crystal display in the center of your brain. It's what projects the color into the non-physical visible, which is the color spectrum that we experience. We just don't realize that this is the exchange that's going on brain to brain, because that's it. We're seeing it all around us. When I look at the television, when I look at the screen, when you look at me, it is thoughts become things manifesting from the biofield into physical reality. Just the same way that every building starts as a blueprint, that's how this works. It's all about thoughts. So that's why the fake news media cycle is what it is. That's why some people that begin this research start off thinking like, oh, those all these movies are just harmless. And what do those people that are religious have, why do they think these things are such a big deal? Why are they getting all bent out of shape because somebody, well, I'll tell you why. It's because intuitively, the people that have accepted faith and religion and seen signs of it, you cannot get them to not think it. They're always going to go like they've had those experiences. Like me, I've had enough experiences right now with synchronicity and everything else like that to know when I'm experiencing something that's informed more by a universal plasma field or God or a creator, that it couldn't possibly have happened without the facilitation or help of a higher power. And so I agree with people that have found religion in that way. I'm less inclined to believe with people who find religion in a kind of phony way where, it's just because things got bad, or somebody convinced them, or, in some fake way. I think that it's such an individual path. I don't judge what others do, but I think that, it has to be deeper than that. You have to have things that really remind you that it's real. Okay. All right. So let me get this helionosis thing going here. Then I can show you one of the other devices that I would be using for this study so that you understand that I'm not just speaking from some whatever. I'm not doing this just to make folks feel good is all I'm saying. Like, I would like you to really understand the core concepts. All right. And so this is the LM4 life meter. And so if you were to approach me to do a study, I just want to make it very clear what I'm discussing here so that you know that it's not just me going like, "Hey, let's play around with the meters." No, no, no. This thing has a soil probe and it can also do other types of energy measurements, okay? So what I'd be doing is taking the soil probe to the location, and I'd be doing measurements there and comparing that measurement to an area nearby that's not close to the church, using a lot of the same principles that I used when I was in the wireless industry to test radio frequency environments. I would be using the same kind of like the knowledge set that I got from that industry to determine like how strong are energy fields from trees. So just to give you an example, I used to be a person that was an in-building system performance engineer. I contracted as a through a headhunter for Verizon. All right, that's my background. That was what I spent the last 2 years of my career doing was improving coverage inside buildings. Sorry for all of those of you who hate that, but there's a need for it. Like for example, hospitals sometimes have basements where you can't get a hold of a doctor because the signal sucks. And so it was my job to go into those areas where there were like in basements or in buildings that had challenging coverage issues and to create solutions for that and to hire the teams and do bid walks with the teams that would do the installations of those types of systems that would help bring signal into like an underground or a basement or just a place that had really thick walls and signal couldn't reach into. You can use a lot of the same learnings and understandings from an engineer in that industry to do good, effective, like science-based measurements of energy fields relative to human energy as well as to environmental energy. The difference is when I was in the wireless industry, we have a known level or signal levels or quality levels, quality of service. There's things like receive signal that you can do. RSSI is one of the things you would measure. 4G LTE networks had something called RSRP that was basically it was kind of like a receive signal. It was like a comparison of these two, like a transmit and receive. You have signal to noise ratio. I mean, sorry, I'm babbling here a little bit, guys, but we have all these different ways that we can evaluate how good the quality of the service is once we had installed a system into a building. And those types of like known things don't exist as broadly within these energy concepts here because there's just almost nobody doing this. There's not that many people buying these meters to begin with. They're custom made by a guy in Canada who used the template from Wilhelm Reich, one of the biggest researchers of human energy, orgone, as he called it. And then the other guy that was doing most of these studies is James DeMayo. As I was informed a couple weeks ago, James DeMayo, who actually you'll hear his voice in a lot of these helionosis clips. James DeMayo just passed away in early April. I believe it was April 3rd, is what I saw in the funeral announcement. And he's written books on this topic. He was one of the only people outside of Wilhelm Reich, I would say, that's done significant research and published research and actually traveled the world explaining to people how this works. And it's strange to me, like he achieved some degree of personal success doing it, but like nobody who gets in this, you guys, does it because they're trying to be known or whatever. It's you have to like once you understand it, you just want others to understand it better so they can under it because it helps them understand the impact of their thoughts. It helps you. I don't know if you ask me, the more you understand this and the more you work with it, the more empathic you become, the more connected to people, the more you become connected to nature, the more you're going to care about other species, even because you start to understand that the same way that you can feel drained of energy or you can project a lot of energy or you're more energetic at certain points, that there's a lot of people out there that just don't have the ability to advocate for themselves when it comes to this exact thing. And all right, so just to be clear on what this does, you can basically put this into the soil and this needle will go, at a certain level and you can do comparisons on the strength of the orgone or the energy field from one location to the other. So if the needle is like down here when I'm in the desert soil and then I put the probe in near a tree and it goes all the way over here,
you can kind of see what I'm talking about. That's a pretty powerful example to somebody who thinks it does nothing. I just showed them that when I put it over here where there's almost nothing going on in the soil, there's no trees, there's no plants, there's no nothing. I just put the probe there and there's the level goes low. I bring it closer to the tree where the roots are, and then you start to see it go up a little bit. Pull the probe out, put it right next to the tree trunk, right where the roots are, and the needle goes whoop, or whoop, into the strength, stronger area. But then what do you do with those measurements? I mean, there's not a whole lot of books published on, what the average, I mean, whatever the unit of measure is that this thing is giving you. It doesn't actually, there's no real basis of comparison. When I was in a wireless industry, we could say like, oh my God, that signal's 40 some dB strong here in the building. Well, that's incredible. You're not going to get much better than that. Why are you doing anything with your system? We know that's a good signal. Leave it alone. Or your signal to rate noise ratio is this. Oh man, that's horrible. I know you have strong signal, but your signal to noise ratio is garbage. You're not going to be able to pass data in there. So we knew based on history, experience, industry norms, what exactly those measurements translated to. It's less known with these types of concepts because there's not just thousands and thousands of people out there taking measurements of it. So you're kind of a lone ranger in that regard, comparing your series of data sets to others that do similar research. And again, one of the only guys that I probably could have talked to in person about this, I just learned died on April 3rd. So that's the sad part. And rest in peace, James DeMeo did a lot of great work. One of my favorite authors, Robert Anton Wilson, he actually discussed some of the work of James DeMeo in his interviews. It helps solidify that he's a real guy to me, I guess, because there is a lot of people that are just faking their identities for good reasons, guys. A lot of people just don't say who they are when they're studying these things. I kind of understand why that is now, but too late for me. I've already told everybody who I am. But just to give you an example of like some of the things you can do, and what I might do in this presentation is actually take one of these meters out because it's easily accessible to me, and I can show you how when you hover your phone over it that you actually can get a measurement from it. So if there's energy, human energy coming from your hands, then the closer you get to the plate, the more you see the needle move, etc. I mean, it's really not any more complicated than that. So I think one of the best things that I can do at this point, hang on really quick. I think one of the best things I can do is just bring up my YouTube channel with some of the energy research. It's kind of flawed, you guys. I'm not going to say it's all the greatest because I was just starting off with my meter. And but there's like a couple of situations where I was near in the desert, near the water, and you could see an amplification of the energy. When I was near a tree, you could see an amplification of the energy. Maybe not amplification is the right word, but an increase in the orgone relative to other areas nearby. And that's what I was always trying to do, is just show people that, yeah, this is how it works. Even if you don't know what the number means, you can tell that it's getting stronger when you're near a tree. It gets weaker when you're away from the tree. That says to me that if this is real, that the tree has a life force to it, something that I think we all should know. Just like if I put it next to my hand and then I remove my hand from it, that's an indication that whatever it's picking up on, it's something. Okay, call it what you want to. Folks, I don't know if my chat's working or not. I've been on for nearly 30 some minutes, and normally my chat is filled with people saying things. So if somebody wouldn't mind at least like chiming in real quick and I can say something to you and I'll answer back. Let's see here. And I'm going to try to get this playlist going here. There it is. Cool. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you, Wordsmith. Thank you, Yurok. All right.
Everybody, I'm near where the Crystal Geyser fountain is, I guess, where that water comes from. If you're familiar with it. Olancha. And so it's hard to find spots where you can get to that's nearby. So I found somewhere near the highway that's kind of near where that Crystal Geyser water facility is, where they get all that nice clean water from out here in the desert near the Sierra Nevadas. And you'll notice that when I plug my meter in and I'm next to a tree, about 0.48 on the multimeter, but then here it's about, 60% and in the positive orgone radiation spectrum. So I thought this was kind of interesting as I take the probe out and I move it to some place that's not next to a tree. Now watch how this changes. Okay, now I'm not next to the tree. Now I'm just in the sand about a foot away. Now look what happens to the meter relative to that. Now, when you're far away from the tree, you're closer to about 30 to 35. I guess you could call that pretty close to 33. Wouldn't that just be special? And then over here, we're about 0.39 comparatively. So when you're just in the soil, you see how that is? 0.39, when you're not that close to the roots comparatively. Now watch when you go, watch how it changes when you go right next to the tree. Look at that. See, the tree has a lot of life flowing through it. Wow, look at that. See how much the meter changes? Because when you're right next to the beach water, you're closer to 35, 38, 33 I've seen out there. And look at that. So lots of positive orgone when you put it right next to the tree. That's a really cool finding. To me, this really says something right here. This is like one of the only times where I did a little side-by-side comparison and saw a big difference. So I don't know, guys. We're showing that trees have life, that they breathe life comparative to just somewhere like a foot away from the soil. And when you get close to those roots, that look at that meter reading comparatively, you're way up there on the orgone reading. And you get these fluctuations on the multimeter. Pretty interesting. So we're here by the Crystal Geyser water facility, a tree right off the highway near Olancha. Thanks. Hey everybody, I'm reporting from.
All right, so that's the one, honestly, guys, that gets me the most. That's the clip. I'll play it again later because for some strange reason, that's the one that makes everybody go, whoa. That makes me, yeah, like Tina says, that it got me thinking. Yeah, that gets nearly everybody thinking more about should I be still just sort of like it's one thing, sorry, what I'm trying to say here. It's one thing when we just know that it's true intuitively and we discuss it at a hypothetical level, but when you actually have something like this, and this is what I propose doing, folks, is I want to bring these to as many people, show you how it works, be there with you so you can actually hover your hand over the meter and things like that and find out for yourself. And then if you have a conflicting theory on how it's working, I'm open to that. I'm not here for confirmation bias. I want to make sure that what we're discussing here is actually accurate. But I am telling you, I experience synchronicity like you would not believe. And I really do believe that a big part of it has to do with crystal. Quartz crystal, because this is what's used for timing in computers. So when people make fun of it, there's a reason why you should make fun of it sometimes, folks, because, the whole thing about it is that a lot of people make kind of a mockery of the use of crystals, or it's simply an ornament for them or something that looks really cool. My crystals don't look cool. They're all they're just this. They don't even really have a lot of form or shape to them. But I've experienced a lot of things with these crystals in my pocket. Every one of these energy studies that I've done, I had these crystals with me everywhere I've gone. And the thing I've learned too is that it's a little bit like pixie dust. If you think about it, little bits of it constantly shave off and are left behind in different spots. That's almost magic in and of itself. I'm not trying to do that. It's just what happens. I drop them on the ground. A piece like this one used to be a lot bigger, actually. I just broke it again today. That's why it's got this cool shiny edge to it now. My point, though, would be the places I experienced the most synchronicity had heavy concentrations of granite. They had heavy concentrations of crystals. And it's a known thing. Some of them were just areas or regions that were just heavy in crystals. and people go there specifically for that reason. But I'm just not a big believer in that all crystals of whatever variety are like significant, because some of them are strictly ornamental, and that's the only reason why they exist. So anyways, so sorry about things that might be going on, folks. Every time I'm doing something that's sort of like this, I have a tendency to get a lot of, I guess you could say, event related desynchronizations. So I can't really control that, just for a hint there. But yeah, right now I'm doing this from, there's a song by Elbow called Fugitive Motel. Yeah, that I might sing it later for that exact reason. It's there's a little bit of a fugitive motel thing going on where I'm at. Sorry, I think I'm covering up the microphone there. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that with my thing. Well, hey guys, look, I'm not really, what I'm trying to do is just find a place where folks would like to do this this study and would take it seriously. So it's really I'm not looking for like consulting fees and crap like that. I really just want to find a group of people that can just make it work. I don't care about those things. It was never really my focus was to be some sort of like paid researcher. I just don't know how to survive unless I ask for those things sometimes. So if somebody wants me to like contract or whatever for a specific project, sure, I got to advocate for myself and ask for compensation, but it's not really a big thing for me. But I found that if I didn't ask for it for a while, people would just take advantage of my time, ask a lot of questions, and then just not help. So don't worry about it, guys, ladies and gentlemen. I'm not money obsessed. I'm not, if I was trying to get rich or at least be well to do, I would have stayed in the wireless industry where I was capable of making six figures. Okay. I left the wireless industry getting paid pretty close to 45 bucks an hour. That's pretty good pay, you got to admit. And that was on the low end of what I was capable of making. And I basically went from making that much money to being, well, broke most of the time, and living from location to location in budget suites and places of that nature, because that's basically what happens. If you want to be mobile and on the road, there's not a lot of stability there. And to do these types of studies, you got to go to a lot of different locations on top of the other things that I was doing with my research and my reporting that were more about revealing information connected to some of these larger issues. So I was trying to get it all done kind of as one large project, but I'm going to have to rethink this a little bit more and try to get more nodes set up. And that's kind of what I'm looking for, folks, is like, who would be interested in being like an area where it's kind of a node of research where I could go there, show you like these concepts, show you the meters. You could actually try them out, use them yourself. We could go over things involving like a church study or something like that. And in the process of doing this, then I kind of get somebody, I guess you could say, onboarded in a way, or, like it's like a job training thing, if you wanted to call it that, except none of us are really, just don't count on getting rich right away or anything else, if it ever. I mean, you have to have this in your heart and want to do it. Okay. But I'm hoping that we can establish nodes in different parts of the country of research. And the sooner I can get started on that, the better. I've just found in the United States, there's just seems to be a lack of belief in it. And there's not a lot of popularity. So like you don't get popular, you don't get clicks on YouTube by showing people life energy. It's only when you're on the Gaia channel and you're going, Gaia, Mother Earth, it's also deep. It's also new age. Ooh, they all seem to be doing really well. They've got homes in different places. They're all really well to do, but they almost never get down to the core concepts or really try to explain it in a real way. And again, not trying to be critical of those folks, I kind of understand why they play that balance now. When you try to just go full on and actually do the research and show people what it's like, it can make things challenging. So, all right. So what I just showed you was the tree. I'm going to play that one more time before I go into this one, because this is a really trippy one that kind of gets into the whole thoughts become things. So for most of the people that I think have been interested in my material, they tend to come from two different extremes. Ones that are heavy into the entertainment culture, absorbed a lot of movies and music similar to me. I'm very much into film. I'm very much into music. I can cite a whole bunch of different bands and scenes from films that I have great memories of. And that was like my own religion. Okay. In a way, not literally. And for others, they were focused on things that were more consistent with their faith, things consistent with God. And they've experienced their synchronicities that remind them that God exists. I was experiencing synchronicities that existed based on films that I saw and energy lines that locations where the movies were made resided on. So I hope you can see the parallel between these two things, because that's really what drove research to the churches. It was because, for example, like okay, Deal of the Century is a movie starring Chevy Chase. Now, there's a ziggurat that was built in Southern California where the end scene of that movie it takes place at. And again, this is like a ziggurat in the United States. It's not built exactly like whatever, but it has that sort of step look to it. It's a ziggurat if you look up that term. Actually, I can put that up on here. Hang on. Actually, you know what? I can play you that story. That might be the thing to do, actually. I should show you that story before I get into this next part, because that's what'll kind of firm up what I'm saying. Then you'll understand why I find churches a compelling issue, because I'm telling you, like movie locations, because they have people, look, films are made with people that have very strong bioenergy signatures, like what you saw in the biowell there. They have an amplification to the level of plasma that influences the grid, whether that's through their blood or because of their influence just by artificially showing this person in repetition to millions of people all over the world. It doesn't really matter. The quote influence is there. So when it comes to the things that they think about, that feeds into the collective hive mind that forms our 3D reality and what we experience. So films, in particular, film locations, I pay very close attention to, and I map them in a Google Earth database. And so if there's films that I saw a lot during the 80s, for example, that had certain actors and actresses that I've had these strange synchronicities with, I would actually visit some of those physical locations of those films. And that was a big part of my research while I was doing all of this. So simultaneously, while I was doing the bioenergy research, I had also just visited a whole series of places where Hollywood films were made, in particular ones that I watched on VHS tape when I was younger. And again, this is all the magnetic loop of the magnetic videotape. We no longer watch things on magnetic tape, really. But back in the 80s, everything was on VHS or Betamax. That was the only way you could watch a movie at home. Now you have streaming video. Nobody has VCRs. But what I would suggest to you is that it was because I watched a whole series of these films from the 80s in repetition on a magnetic loop that created another factor of energy relative to the location that I lived at while I watched those films. It affected the grid. It got inputted as a data set. The way the film influenced me, I took it into my pineal gland. I formed thoughts based on the film. It made me feel a certain way. The things in the movie outputted from me using this exact process, folks. Remember this. This is what's there. So when you're looking at me, remember the eyes to the pineal gland. And then right behind here is the tetrahedron that splashes against your LCD, your liquid crystal display that is your pineal gland. That pushes the plasma out. And then all the different people's biofields merging together forms that. This is what I think, guys. You ever notice that there's the least amount of color in the places where there's the least amount of people? I know you're going to say weather drives that, but I want you to think about what I'm telling you. One begats the other. If nobody's there, then that's why the color spectrum is so reduced. But it also has uninhabitable living conditions, which is also why nobody's there. Kind of a trippy thing to think about, because we are creating the projection that we exist in. So if you go to the desert, how many colors do you see around? It's pretty limited. It's like you have one band of color, a couple bands of color that are barely mixing together. You get mostly tan, you get the beige kind of colors, And yeah, some places have like red rock, and that's a little bit interesting, but you're not seeing like a lot of green. You're not seeing like flowers on the trees. You're not seeing all those other things. No puns intended there, folks. Which I would argue is because of the lack of people. Again, what begats what? It's like even the whole universal plasma field argument. We're creating it, yet it's also creating us. So there's something true when it comes to the desert that's very similar, if you ask me. And I think these studies help prove that out. So I'm going to do a really quick search here on ziggurat, and then I'll show you that clip to help explain what I'm talking about. And what's interesting about this, oh yeah, there we go. That's great. Okay, hang on. I put this on the screen. This way you can actually see in my title cards some of what drove this material. And so I put down there, maybe I can make that larger here. Let me make my head smaller. Whoop, there we go. All right. So that's the ziggurat that they filmed Deal of the Century at with Chevy Chase. And it served a lot of different functions over the years, but it was mainly like a government building. It was actually built by a defense contractor like Rockwell or something like that. And then I went to this physical location. I did this story from there, but I also was in the desert that aligns with that ziggurat. So to put this in context, see this line down here where the filming location in Lucerne Valley and Buckaroo Banzai was. All right, yes, I was physically at that location, but I was also physically at this location above. And Chevy Chase was physically at that location above when he filmed Ziggurat of Ur, or rather filmed Deal of the Century. Excuse me, not Ziggurat of Ur, that's a different topic. And then coincidentally, folks, while I was up there where that Deal of the Century ziggurat is, it aimed and went across a Masonic temple that was up there at Lake Arrowhead of all places. And so that's why I did the story there. This actually, you know what? I'm going to play these clips in particular because this is where the synchronicities got really, really weird. All right. So this is like what I'm hoping this will help you understand is like my theory behind why the film grid impacted it and why a church study would be similarly valuable to prove out some things. So I was at the Ziggurat of Ur, or not, sorry guys, it's not the Ur. I was at the Ziggurat in Southern California where they filmed Deal of the Century. Okay. So if I was there and I focus on the number 33 because of the 33-degree lines, well, that led me quite intuitively from location to location without even understanding entirely what I was doing. I just wound up in certain places where there was the Masonic Lodge, there was I mean, again, you would have to accept on faith that that's true, but that's really how it worked out. I was just driving to certain places at an intuitive level, and I was being magnetically drawn to certain locations that I would discover later on had alignments to this ziggurat at 33 degrees. Hopefully that makes sense. All right, so let me play this clip real quick.
The Customer Journey Builder.
Yeah, freaking commercials, sorry. I need to get an ad blocker. All right, here we go.
This is a ziggurat here in California. I'm not sure exactly technically what this area is called, to be honest with you. I just located on the map, and it's had a lot of different names, but it's located kind of near Irvine area in California. And it's relevant to me because this film is where well, there's quite a few films I think that they did here, but in particular, the film Deal of the Century starring Chevy Chase, Gregory Hines, and Sigourney Weaver. And it was about defense contractors. It was about sort of like the competition between various defense contractors in competition to sell weapons to various countries around the world. And I learned about this building that it was actually built for Rockwell International. And then because it was around the time of the Vietnam War, some of the business was winding down. And so it never got occupied for any actual defense projects. And so now it serves various functions. It's, a general purpose office building, but it's been a federal building at times. It's done, various types of companies or whatever. But the point is, a ziggurat as a structure, what it represents esoterically is highly relevant. And the shape and the stacked pyramid nature of it, the way the cornerstones are aligned, very relevant. This one in particular has 33.33 degree alignments, 333.33 degree alignments, and I believe a 30.33 degree alignment. It's pretty interesting. And it was through this exact ziggurat, okay, and watching Deal of the Century, that gave me sort of the etheric link using the 33 and the third degree line. It gave me that etheric link to start researching an area that was well beyond up there in Northern California, well, not Northern California, but north of here, near like the Victorville, Apple Valley. Actually, it's Lucerne Valley area. So when you follow the line that goes from this ziggurat right here, okay, at 33 degrees, 33.33 degrees from the top, it winds up going across the valley up into California and goes across the Twin Peaks, Lake Arrowhead, kind of Big Bear Lake area.
Yeah, so this is the line, folks. I hope this makes sense because I know this article is going pretty fast. I've learned that sometimes it's better for me to do things that are like, just a few minutes instead of making them last way too long like I normally do. But if you were to go into Google Earth, place a center point at the ziggurat where Deal of the Century was filmed, and aim at 33.33 degrees, it wound up in all these different other locations that I did energy studies at. So it's trippy to me that, yeah, sometimes I do it consciously. I'm actually looking for them. And other times the alignments are more because the movie just happened to have the alignment already. So there's nothing that would connect the film's Deal of the Century with Buckaroo Banzai. Yet for some strange reason, you guys, even right down to one of my recent studies, so many things synchronized to these filming locations of Buckaroo Banzai. It's called, what's the name? It's the full name of it is Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai in the Eighth Dimension or something like that. And it all involves time travel or space-time manipulation and, some subplot with, aliens and things like that. But it's mostly just about a guy that does a lot of tests with these things. And it does have some themes where the Nazis are the bad guys that are partnering with the aliens. A very strange, campy film, yet there's tons and tons of truth in it, hidden within the, I guess, the esoteric and kind of bizarre plot line.
Near, was it Skyline or something like that's the name of the town? And then it keeps going on until you're in the Lucerne Valley area, and that's exactly where they filmed Buckaroo Banzai in the Eighth Dimension, which is about space-time manipulation. And if you know anything about the Ziggurat of Ur and Iraq, a very similar concept in construction and everything like that, then you'll know the connection to stargates. More on that later. Hey, everybody. So reporting to you from the desert out here, Lucerne Valley. This is an area where they filmed The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai in the Eighth Dimension. And it's a great location, not only to research some of the esoteric energy lines, because this location's connected to Deal of the Century, a movie starring Chevy Chase, but they also filmed a lot of the scenes from Buckaroo Banzai out here. So you can see it's like a great place to do a lot of desert scenes. So the beginning of the movie involves like breaking the space-time barrier, interdimensional space travel, things like that. What a strange coincidence. So funny that today we're going to be out here doing a test. And I just have this feeling that there was a lot of people that never wanted to see us do these kind of measurements, and that's why I feel good. So Buckaroo Banzai, great movie. And yeah, there's an energy line. So this is where they filmed that, some of it. And then it connects to the Ziggurat where Chevy Chase filmed the Deal of the Century back in the 80s. An interesting correlation in data, don't you think? So here I am. I'm going to take my measurement. I tell you what, guys, it's a really strange world we live in, but it's not always that bad. It's kind of funny, actually. It's pretty funny. Talk to you soon.
What? Sorry, guys. Hang on. I'm having some jams going on here. I'm not sure what's up.
Pretty much everything that's nice and pretty is private, and you have to have a nice, expensive home.
Wow, bizarre. Sorry, folks. That one ain't working. This one's more interesting anyways.
All right, guys, we're going to start our test here. So again, I'm actually doing this test for the life meter in the same location as Buckaroo Banzai. Some of the opening scenes were filmed. Sorry about my nasty nails, guys. I spent a lot of time outside, so I'm not exactly concerned about manicures. Anyways, but yeah, you can kind of see there's a lot of that shiny rock if you pay attention to it. That's all around here. So I'm kind of curious. I mean, yeah, it's desert. I mean, look at this. We're kind of by the road. That's where they filmed Buckaroo Banzai. So sure, our meter works. So this is how you test it. When you hold on to it, if it goes about 50%, you got a good probe action. So, oops, sorry. Gotta be easy on my probe. All right. Hang on. All right. So obviously the desert is dry, hence making it much more difficult to put the probe in the earth, but it's in there now. And so, all right. So when I was in the city closer, it was about 0.57. Now I have this probe in this desert area out here, and we're getting about 0.54 comparatively. So again, 2 desert climates, so it's pretty consistent, guys. And then you'll find in other areas where there's more tree growth and things like that, you'll get levels closer to 0.7, is what I'm told. So again, we're just measuring orgone. So pretty close, 54, 55, I would call it, somewhere in there. Again, guys, I know it's not too sexy, but you'll start seeing differences in the measurements soon. Okay, I'm just telling you, it'll get more interesting as we go along here. But this is basically what we're doing, and then you can take the probe out. You can see that it actually changes if you remove it. So again, it zeroes the meter back down. Well, pretty close. So it is actually taking a measurement, guys. It's not like it's something that just does whatever. It's measuring something. This has been my conundrum. Like, how do we measure these life energy concepts and prove these things actually exist, And this is one of the ways. So put it back in. Yeah, you're about 0.54, 0.55, pretty close. So. All right, guys. And so the next level is to start doing more of the spectral photography for life meter measurements and things like that, and comparing these things to human energy fields. It's going to get interesting. Thanks for watching.
All right. So getting back to the tree again.
From the El Mirage Dry Lake. This is a location that they filmed Buckaroo Banzai at, mostly over yonder out there.
All right. So this is where it got super interesting, folks. Like the thing about money magic, like they talk about, I've said this the other day, and then somebody put a comment on my chat that something similar happened to them. And I don't doubt them, okay? But I had this strange synchronicity that occurred where I was even explaining to somebody that, I focus so much on the number 33 anymore that I would not doubt that if I reached into my pocket right now, the change in my pocket would be about 33 cents. Now, I wasn't consciously carrying 33 cents at that time. I was literally getting, I bought coffee one place, bought some food another place or whatever. And then what was left inside my pocket just happened to be when I reached in, pulled it out, and I counted it, it was exactly 33 cents. And that kind of thing happens. And I do think that this is all based on, if you want to call it alchemy, whatever, but it manifests into our physical reality. I just thought about it. I was thinking. There's metals inside coins. We have all these different things that, like, copper is in our blood. Various metals that are in the change in our pockets are also in our blood. And so when you really get down to it, this psychoenergetic process does manifest things into physical reality, which is one of the reasons why I think that people are, mistreated on a very focused scale, if you understand what I'm saying. That if you've been chosen for something that's a little bit higher level and maybe holy in nature, the game is on at that point to break your spirit, to make you not understand that you can actually do exactly what I just said. Like thinking about something like that will actually make it resonate, and it just happens to be at the spot in time. Now, hell, I wish I would have been thinking about 33,000 or 33 million, but that would have been even better. But in that case, I thought 33 cents, and so I had 33 cents in my pocket. But the number 33, it travels along this energy line, which again, not the 33rd parallel, not what I'm talking about. I'm saying that you aim the angle, you aim the angle at a center point at the ziggurat where Deal of Centuries filmed, and it goes from Southern California all the way up to that Lake Arrowhead area that I was at, into the desert where Buckaroo Banzai films were made, landing exactly in this spot here. And this is where it tripped me out, because you got to see what this poll said. And again, I didn't know this. I did not consciously select this. That's just the truth, but you can believe what you want.
But yeah. So again, this is less about the 33-degree line, although I find this super interesting, guys. So I come out here to do my measurement. Talk about weird. And I choose this post because it's one of the last places I can test at the dry lake before you have to pay a fee, which I don't want to do because I only want to run a quick test, right? And look where the post is. I promise you guys, not planned. I literally just pulled up and found this here, 1933, this post. Why it's called 1933, I don't know. But look at my measurement here. 0.47 there. And then when you look here, you got it around 33 in the negative orgone, rather the dark orgone, DOR spectrum of radiation. An interesting reading out here. This is the Buckaroo Banzai location, the dry lake. So again, a movie that deals with life energy, space-time manipulation. A lot of it filmed out in this very desert. And I tested one of the other locations relative to Buckaroo Banzai, and this is the second one. So now I've been to both, man. There's your meter reading. Thanks.
So this is just a weird example of how this concept works that's not related to spirituality. It was related in my experience with movies, thinking about the films, visiting the filming locations, but it helped me understand why when a person prays in church that it amplifies their thoughts. Okay? So I hope that makes sense to you, because that's kind of the way it worked. And again, you can say what you want to about it being a Masonic thing or whatever. That's fine. I mean, if that offended people, that is what it is. But I'm not a Freemason or anything else like that. I just know that whatever is going on within Freemasonry that concentrates on the number 33, most people don't really understand why the 33 exists, aside from that, well, okay, you get to this whatever Scottish Rite or York or whatever Freemasonry, and you get to level 33 and you get to be this Master Mason. I would say, though, that nobody becomes a Master Mason unless they understand everything that I just told you. That's the real teaching. So everything having multiple meanings, right? So if you've noticed here, when we were by a tree in the desert, we had closer to like, what, 55? And it was in the positive orgone spectrum. And then as you get further into the desert, you start going into the lower to mid 40s on your measurements. And again, this is with no plant life around, no trees around, and also in the middle of the desert. All right. So your life energy is reduced because there's just not a lot of things growing. There's whatever. Okay. So there's a consistency to the data. And that's all I'm trying to explain to people here. This is not just like whatever, something we say to feel good. You'll actually see a difference. So I can't remember what the measurement was here, but I'll just play this one really fast because, again, this is a similar case to the way it was out there in Neurolancia, but this was called Silver Lake. And at Silver Lake, I wanted to like measure a desert climate kind of close to the suburbs in the middle of nowhere relative to this. So hang on.
I'm out here at the Silver Lake, kind of near River's Edge, Rude. An interesting correlation because there's a movie called River's Edge that's pretty iconic from the 80s, but it has nothing to do with this area really. It just happened to be the name of it, obviously, because it's by the River's Edge. But look, the meter's in there, and this thing's completely maxed out. I mean, it is everything. It is off the Richter scale. It doesn't matter if I change my probes. Even I was like, did I do something wrong with my connections? See, it seems to be, it's like pretty much right at the top there, 100%.
But the multimeter said nothing, which
So
I
I
don't
thought I was
understand.
making a mistake, but if I pull the probe out, it does get lower. See? Back down to 0. Put it in. There it is. So, let's try something else. Again, I'm starting to wonder if my connection's correct, but see, that's correct. The probe is in there. It's tuned properly. This place is just, you know, maxing out everything. I'm still wondering what I'm doing wrong here, right? So, again, take the probe out. It's back down. Test it. See? All right. Now, try one more spot. Look at this, guys. Everywhere I go here, I'm still wondering if I'm doing something wrong. Everything here is off the Richter scale. I'm telling you. Okay. What is going on out here, guys? Am I doing something wrong? I keep wondering. I'm set to 1. Like, I gotta put this up here. Let's see. I'll tune it a little bit, but no, it should be about 4. Set to 1. Yeah, look at that. Everywhere I go here. So if I'm doing something wrong, I'll correct my meters, but this seems the Silver Lake area is like hugely energetic.
Yeah, hey, welcome there, white boy. Thanks for the question.
So I'm out at
But yeah, it's so you said, is it if it's magnetics underground or father's natural created from Mother Earth? Yeah, I don't look. I believe what orgone or what this measurement is so like we kind of know what electricity is. We know what magnetism is. I would argue that the aether is what's in between. So like just so you have the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. I think you got, not necessarily in this order, you got electricity, you got magnetism, then you've got the aether, you've got Holy Spirit, you've got universal plasma field, you've got, call it what you want to, but it's something that exists in between what magnetism is and electricity is. And I would argue it's what pushes the plasma around in the non-physical layers. And so like, you know, again, I can show you guys like right here. I mean, I have a meter on me. This isn't a good way to do it though, because I'm close to my Wi-Fi signal and that would affect the meter, just so you know. Even though this is orgone, yeah, being near intense magnetic fields or intense electrical fields would potentially impact this meter. So you want to not do that. But I can tell you, like, there it is. I got to tune it though. but you can see the needle move. Yeah, it's guys, this isn't a good way to do it because I'm way too close here. Let me do this. All right. But see, with my body, you could argue that, well, geez, Gabe, if you're a if you're an electrical, there's body voltage and things like that. How do we know it's not just measuring your body voltage raw? That's a good point. You can actually see the diagram as far as what the design is by going to Helionosis website, and you'll discover that he basically just created a a replica in a smaller form factor. So this is what Wilhelm Reich used, except his thing was like huge. It was like you had to fit it on like a big desk or a table to use it. Okay. And he was doing things like tests where when he put his hand on the orgone plate, that the energy transfer from the plate that he was measuring on could actually make like a thing spin around. Like it would actually, there would be enough energy from his hand to like drive a very small motor. So to me, I don't know. I'm not sure what that all translates to. It could be which came first, the chicken or the egg, relative to what the electrical grid is. Is the electrical grid is the energy that's culled from humans and other animals? Does it all pass through us on some level? Is that what's going on? I think that that's all a valid argument, or at least something that I would want to like see through a little bit and find out if that's really how it's going. But yeah. And by the way, white boy, I did send you an email message because I had your email because you had expressed some interest in having some larger discussions about this. So let me know if you got that. If not, then I've been trying to make a very conscientious effort the last couple days to reach out to people because I have this strange instinct that something's going on with my communication, where not all my emails are being sent out and I'm not receiving all of them. There's times where I'm expecting to get emails from people that told me that they were going to, and like out of the blue, I get some junk email from some list that I've never subscribed to, or I consciously unsubscribed to a long time ago, or I get a weird notification on my phone from an app that I never use, or have it turned off on. And so my gut's telling me that some of my communications are being swapped for one, data push over to something that looks like garbage to me, but might have come from somebody who was trying to send it. And so I wanted to use this exact stream, as a matter of fact, to verify those types of things. And so again, even if all we achieve is to get through the hack, that's fine. But if anybody in here is seriously interested right now in doing something on this level, then I would what I'm going to do here, and again, I'm gonna trust this audience with this information. I have a feeling I'm going to get doxxed out the ass anyways, which is fine. I don't really care. I don't run from myself, and I use my real name. So I might put one of my spare phone numbers inside the chat here, so that folks that are joining can actually send me a quick message just as a way to say, yes, I take this seriously, and I would be interested in doing like a measurement or a reading, whether it's on a tree. Well, yeah, if you want to do a tree, that's fine. But right now, I'm hoping that that whether it's a church or a synagogue or a mosque or a temple, or simply an area out in the middle of the desert that just you feel really good at, or people like that go out there and they're like, wow, the energy is different here. I feel way better here when I'm here compared to other areas. You ever notice, guys, like like a lot of the people that are kind of on the rich side, they have this tendency to go out to the desert, to these retreats where there's like nothing out there but these special camps that have like hot springs or natural spring waters. That's kind of what I was discovering out there at Silver Lake. It's like, yeah, there's the areas that are near there that are like Barstow is a really horrible place. Sorry for anybody who lives in Barstow. If you love it, all I can say is that I appreciate your ability to delude yourself into loving a place that is pretty much unlovable, and I respect that. That's cool. you might actually improve the biofield there by believing so much in Barstow. But in my experience, it wasn't the greatest place in the world. It was kind of miserable. And but not far away from Barstow was this area called Silver Lake. So the further you get away from Barstow, the it's just like that area in particular was just very low energy. The people weren't happy. But you go out to the Silver Lake area, like everybody out there just looks really good. They seem like they're really healthy. They all say hi to each other. They get along. It was weird. It was quiet. I mean, I wouldn't say it was like, Ned Flanders and The Simpsons, like "Hidely ho, neighbor" kind of vibe, but no, I mean, it was just a general friendlier atmosphere. So there's something going on when you have these bodies of water out in the middle of the desert that it brings, for whatever reason, it amplifies the natural energy grid to such a degree. And I think it's because the water draws in the life, the water draws in the people, and the people are what make it what it is. It's that they are the ones that are creating the color spectrum. So if there's water there, I mean, think about this, like zoom out from what we are as people and think of us more as this as energy transfer. How does color spectrum occur within this reality that we live in? Well, water draws people to places that are desertous. And that water is the love, it's the life energy. And then after that, they start planting flowers, they start building homes, they start planting grass. And now there's more color spectrum added to this drab desert. It's all tans, beige, maybe a little bit of red rock here and there. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. So the water is the frequency, if you think about it, that's bringing in magnetically the people to the location where it's dry everywhere else and there's not as much life. And then I think what'll happen over time is as more people begin to populate those areas, then and they actually will be they do things to increase the color spectrum because of this process involving the pineal gland relative to water frequency. This right here, I know, guys, I'm going to find something better that people can actually see sometime, but remember, we're forming reality within this tetrahedron, that there's crystals surrounding this. And so everything that goes outbound is a projection. And the more people you add to this projection, the more colorful it gets if they have a positive mind state, if they're thinking about life, if they're thinking about love and creation. Now, if they're all out there and miserable and poor, then that ain't going to happen. Hence, you can see this in a lot of different areas, folks. I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking more hypothetically right now, but really at the end of this, what I'm trying to do is just encourage people to sort of just get involved with the studies if they're interested. If you're not already, I'm not trying to necessarily artificially encourage you, but those who really, really get it, I feel like it's important that we just start establishing nodes right now of schools. I want there to be sort of I don't want necessarily be to quote an esoteric school, but I would like there to be people that are more consistent with what Edgar Cayce was doing. He was a spiritualist, and I think that that's more of the level that I'm at this point. I'm not trying to practice magic. I'm not trying to join some occult society or anything like that. I just want there to be learnings about how does what we believe in manifest into physical reality in the creation aspect of it. And that's what I was inspired about, especially around Easter. I had a lot of things that I had as revelations, and quite frankly, I don't know. How do I say this? At a psychoenergetic level, I started to really feel it's like this desert, like this kind of drought in the desert, like what I just said about Barstow, even. I mean, that's kind of like an idea. Like they make Barstow this really crappy place, and then it just gets crappier and crappier because the people that live there don't believe in it. They don't like it. They're in poverty. And when you remove people from poverty, when you remove people from misery, then you'll start to see the color spectrum change everywhere, does it not? Do you think that Barstow would look like this horrible, crappy desert place where it's just filled with pollution and everything else like that, and people just driving their cars around, just creating these big black clouds of smoke? They're really into that there, guys. Like, it's bizarre. They all have these overly artificially amplified engines, and they're intentionally spewing out this smog like in this really aggressive way. They pull up to all the street lights and race with each other and go and it just plumes everywhere. And you got to think about how miserable that makes everybody, like by design. I really feel like things like that happen, you guys, and that sort of energy anchors into the location, And it becomes more and more difficult for generation after generation to get unanchored from that sort of psychoenergetic misery that results in there being a lack of color spectrum in the desert. Because if the people there were doing well, if they had decent homes, they would be doing things to make those homes look pretty. They would be doing things to make themselves and one another, aside from just like doing crap to their cars that spread, chemicals everywhere. They would be doing something far beyond what they are right now to bring color spectrum into their environment. They would paint their houses. They wouldn't let everything rust. You see what I'm saying? That's things that poverty causes. That's things what depression and despondence and people feeling low and not healthy, that it causes all of that. And so if we really want to change things, more people having a greater awareness of how all these factors literally change the spectrum of color everywhere around you, you know? Yeah, so good comments, white boy. I appreciate that. But yeah, what I would like to do is something closer to what Edgar Casey did. And this is actually, I'm just going to be straight up with you guys, hold my mistake up things. This is why, like, I had somebody that showed me the Edgar Casey Center, and I sent them a message even because we had gotten in some arguments at certain times, and I really began to really think about what those arguments translated to. I'm not a perfect person. If I get pissed off or if I piss off somebody or they piss off me, I'm going to give them a piece of my mind. That's how I've always been. I don't necessarily think I was wrong for, expressing myself angrily at certain times, but it did occur to me that that's why I have to be a better person at that moment. Because if I really get into an anger loop with a person ever, especially one that showed me something as beautiful as the Edgar Casey Center, you know, I regretted ever having an unkind word to say to them. That's the best thing that I can say. I really wish that I'd been nicer. So I'll hold my mistake up that way. We really should be thinking more in terms of like, yeah, let's not damn these areas. You know what I'm saying? Because we know, like, yeah, you're right, dude. Barstow it is a tweaked out, methed out, drug infested culture. Lots of gangs, lots of problems, and that's generational. Like not a lot of people can help it. And how do you get out of that situation unless somebody comes into Barstow and says, you know something, I see potential here. I think that Barstow could be a great place in the middle of the desert. Well, some people did that. They just didn't do it in Barstow. They tried to get away from Barstow because trying to start with Barstow is probably a mistake. Does that make sense too? You see, certain areas psychoenergetically, they're kind of damned. That's the best thing I can say. There's been so much trauma, there's been so much poverty. It's out in the desert as it is. Not a lot of water. Water is love. Water frequency brings about more water. If you think about it, I mean, love brings more love. Hate brings more hate. Disdain brings more disdain. That's why you can't get into loops of arguments and things like that. But yeah, I will say, and again, the thing about Edgar Casey was a lot of people get a little bit weary about spiritualists because they think that they're doing things that are within the satanic or Luciferian realm through their powers of ESP, clairvoyance, able to predict events. But I also think that God, much like Malachi Martin suggested in his interview with Art Bell, he did a series of these interviews that are brilliant. There's several of them that you can find on the internet. And I listened to all of them, and actually more than once. And they're long. Like a lot of these bus rides that I've been going on, one of my ways of coping is to listen to Malachi Martin talk to Art Bell because it's a very relaxing conversation. It's the same reason I like to listen to Robert Anton Wilson. There's a way that his voice, relaxes me. It makes me feel more at peace. And so, yeah. The best thing I can tell you though, folks, is that being conscientious of your words is a big deal. Okay, it's something that we should all focus on doing better at, and being nicer to one another whenever possible, and to not get stuck into loops of negativity anytime possible. All right, so yeah, good comments on Edgar Casey. Oh, hey, Buckeye. If you can't see somebody's comments, it's probably because you're on a channel that's different than them. So I broadcast these things on two different channels. Okay. I see all the comments on my multi-plat or my streaming platform, those of you who, if you want to see the person's comments that you're missing, it's because you need to go over to the other stream. And it's up to you guys which ones you want to join. I would say the most users that are commenting the most are going to be on the one that's just called Gabriel Cruz. If you see, I'll show you down here. If you don't see this down here, this is the channel you want to be on. Let me see here, copy link address. There we go. All right. Just so you know, this is if you're only seeing comments on the other one, then you want to be on that channel. And one will just be labeled Gabriel Cruz, and the other one says Gabriel Cruz Research Backup Mirror Channel. All right. I keep both because a lot of times I get or they pull me offline, mostly when I'm doing this type of research. That's the irony in this, folks. It's almost never when I say something that's legitimately controversial or would cause people to be pissed off, you know, like some of my material, like I'm just revealing something and it's in the reveal that people are like, hey, that's not cool. That's unfair. They let that shit stay on, sorry about my language, but they'll let that stay on my channel pretty much indefinitely. It's very seldom they pull any of those types of comments off. But if I do anything life affirming, positive, that's about water frequency, that's about being kinder to one another, they'll just like they'll find the most ridiculous, bizarre reasons to pull it off. Like that clip the other day on Easter, I did it twice. I've since delisted the other one because it's not necessary anymore. But the first one, I wanted it out on Easter. So their way of delaying and stalling me getting that message out on Easter was they just threw a bunch of arbitrary nonsense, what do you call it, copyright violations that were just totally bogus and not rooted in any complaint or reality. I am convinced of that. And that forced me to create very slight edits that made it to where, and by the way, I didn't just get copyright struck. They made it to where it could not be shown anywhere, any place in the world. Getting copyright struck is one thing. This being totally banned from having it looked at anywhere in the world is a whole nother thing. And anytime I do a big reveal about energy concepts or symbolism, that's what happens. Really ridiculous things that are designed to take my channel down or remove the clip from being online for a while. So you can go into YouTube whenever you have a copyright violation. If you want your clip to restore, you just have to say, okay, fine. The parts that you didn't want inside there, I will trim them out, and the software auto trims them. But see, if it's time sensitive, they'll do this every single time. Mine was time sensitive. I wanted it out on Easter. So guess what they did? They pulled it off over these like snippets that were completely irrelevant, that made no difference. In fact, I don't want to give them any ideas, but the point is, that would be the least of the things that should have been copyright struck. Okay. But they did that. Anyways. So again, back to the whole thoughts become things thing. I just wanted to get that out there, that maybe one of the reasons why the desert is the way that it is because of, yes, the depression, the lack of people, and the fewer people that actually can form together this. Because the whole game is this can actually produce color spectrum. So the more people that join together, excuse me, the more people that join together, they'll do things like plant grass. They'll do things like, water projects that bring things to the area. If you really think about it, it's the same thing that I always talk about. Like, you don't even get the building until you do the whatever you want to call the blueprint, and then you have a discussion about it. And then all the people that form the idea, as you're thinking about the building together in a project meeting with all the other engineers, architects, construction crews, all those people are getting together and forming the tetrahedrons within their brain. They're visualizing it, sharing their ideas for the vision, sharing the blueprints, sharing the architecture, and then they're all getting together and going, now we create the group projection and it goes outbound, So there you go. All right. Well, let me look at this comments real quick. Actually, I'll review the comments that I haven't been paying attention to while I play some of this video here. I think this is one I already did. Oh, no. This is another one.
Red Rock Park, Ricardo, which is a strange coincidence. Anyways, I'm out here measuring life energy by this. So, it's the red rock over there. You can see. Okay. Now, I'm kind of by some sagebrush off the side of the road here, kind of close to the campground. This is what's weird, guys. Now, my multimeter kind of matches. You know, none of my connections have changed or anything like that, but notice that there's almost a nearly matching number to the percentage. So I'm in the dark orgone spectrum radiation here, about neg 38, 39 on the needle there. Rather 38%, 39%, I should say. Sorry, guys, I'm used to speaking DV language, but yeah, I mean, and then I have nearly matching here on the multimeter. So I don't know, man. Maybe there's just some strangeness or anomalies, but like with that tree, I had a high percentage here within the orgone reading, but I had a low thing on my multimeter. So it's strange that it matches identically this time. Maybe that's just a coincidence, but I'm still learning my way around the meter, guys. But yeah, that's what we're getting here in the negative, rather than the deadly orgone radiation spectrum. We're near the red rocks, and that's our readings. So there it is, guys. Take a look. So that's how much life there is in the desert. Everybody.
Yeah. Yeah, dude. Like, yeah. So like White Boy just said it, like we sit here and we'll talk all this endless amounts of smack about Barstow, but at some point, in a way, it contributes to it staying crappy like that, because all the people that just constantly put out there, this is the worst place in the world and everything else like that, we just wind up, reinforcing it. And I don't want it to stay that way. I mean, I was there for I was kind of forced to go to Barstow because I couldn't afford lodging in Las Vegas where had been staying, up until that point. I didn't have a weekly stay at that point. The only way a person can afford to ever stay in Vegas for any indefinite amount of time, if you're not, if you're on a low budget, you can't do it with those hotels, even if they're like super cheap ones, like a Motel 6 is. You've got to find the places that are weekly stays that'll give you 7 full days of lodging, but a lot of times they want big deposits and they don't get them back, or you have to pay cleaning fees, even though most of these places aren't even clean when you get them. But yeah, that's pointless actually. The thing is that it kind of pushed me out to the desert when normally I would have stayed close. And the time that I was in Barstow, wow, it was horrible. This was a different time frame, though. By this point, I'd already done all these studies, and I was just sort of camping out there waiting for my insurance to settle so I could go pick up my mail and things like that, which took them an endless amount of time. So somebody just asked, can they get different readings on their body, one from the feet and one from the chest? Yes, you can. I have all the different things. So this meter in particular, I have this one that you can do those types of measurements on. Like you could literally, if you wanted to, you could even just hover your toe over that blue plate right here. And then you could do your finger, or there's probes up in the top here. And I have a series of the probes. I have an acupuncture probe. I have a soil meter. I've got, what else? I've got other ones to measure with. I don't even know how some of them work yet because I haven't found a use for them, just to be frank with you. And what I'd like to do though is take this particular meter, like you see in these inside these diagrams. I would like to take them to places that are spiritual sites, that are religious sites. I really wish I had actually done an energy study at the Edgar Cayce Center, or had at least propositioned them about doing an energy study there, because that place is absolutely magical. And the thing I do remember is my friend from there did actually find like a big cluster of like a rock that had crystal and all kinds of other like materials in it. It was just something that they found like quite by happenstance. It was really trippy. So, yeah, things like that happen in these areas where there's a heavy concentration of crystals and other materials. The synchronicity events, the types of things that happen to you are really, really strangely, I don't know. There's no way to describe it unless you experience it yourself. Like, how do I explain to people that all I had to do at the Edgar Cayce Center was think Malachi Martin, and then I didn't even look it up on a computer. I would literally, the thought would occur to me as I got close to the book, and then I would just reach my hand around and the book would be there. It literally, I like go around the corner, it says Martin. And I go, is it that Martin? And I pull the book out and there it is. It says Malachi Martin, The Encounter. And so again, ever since then, it's been a lot of his interviews with Art Bell that have actually influenced me. And if you guys remember, Art Bell was out there in Nevada for a while. So kind of an interesting thing. Again, I think there's something about the way that everywhere we go, we're leaving a bioenergetic imprint behind. Everything we experience in that area and everything else like that is leaving behind the energetic whatever. No, you wouldn't want to combine this with a Rife device. That wouldn't be my recommendation. I don't know, like, because you're artificially bringing. Actually, you might even damage the meter, because if you're increasing your electrical flow into that, I think that would be a bad idea. But I mean, if you're asking, are they similar? Is there similar things at play? Yeah, yeah. I mean, Rife machines. This thing here is, you have to think of it like this is doing measurements. It's not doing anything to transmit anything out. If you're using a Rife machine, then you're sending signals. You're actually pushing the signals into your body or into the area nearby or whatever. So no, I wouldn't recommend doing things like that. But that's up to you. I'm just saying, like, I don't see I'm not entirely sure I see the value in doing that directly, but maybe I'm missing something as part of your question though. But yeah, like what I would suggest though is if you want to see how effective Rife is, one way to do that would be to get the thing. If you saw the beginning of my presentation, I showed people the BioWell, and I can put that up on the screen real quick here again. Hang on real fast, and I'll get my BioWell thing. So this is, if to answer your question about Rife, this is what I would use, and I do have one of these. And so if you're trying to like see how Rife is helping you, then you use this thing called the GDV system, and it's basically this is the BioWell, and it takes you have to kind of know how to use them properly, but you basically get a reading of your bioenergy field relative by putting your fingers inside that camera one at a time, and it produces a chart that shows your biofield measurement. And so that's what I would recommend, that you would do something like that before and after your Rife sessions if you wanted to see how effective they were. But I would not like have the Rife machine turned on while you did the measurement. That would be a bad idea. Only because there is a bit of signal flow that's going through your body, and I don't know if that could damage the camera or not. I don't think I would want to do that. I personally wouldn't even try it myself, but it doesn't mean that my theory is rooted in whatever. I just don't want to take the chance, quite frankly. All right. All right. So with all that in mind, folks, now that you've seen all this material, let me put that out there. Is there anybody that thinks that in the near future, like I'm talking sooner than later, who wants to at least start working on this and would like to maybe spend like a few days or, longer on figuring this out with me? If you would be interested in that, I am looking for people that have serious inquiries right now, or would have a group of people that would like to have their biofield measured, and that I could partner with. And normally, folks, like whenever I'm going to be doing things like this, I have for a while, because I have to earn a living somehow, so I'm not like stuck places like I am right now. I'm not really in a bad situation or whatever, guys. I'm just like I'm kind of in limbo between work projects, research projects, and I don't have a definitive place where I can really go to actually figure out what the next steps are. So I don't want to just sit here in one of these areas, just sort of like spending money and growing dust and just doing these live presentations and having it amount to like next to nothing. What I'm trying to do is get myself to another environment where somebody wants to do this very seriously and learn about it. Yeah, I mean, honestly, what would keep me from looking into that person's material is the name. Honestly, it just sounds to me like a bogus name. But I'm open to learning more if you want to send me something privately, like in an email or something like that. That kind of sounds kind of I don't know. It sounds a little bit cipherish, to be honest with you. But that doesn't mean it is. I don't know. Guys, I try not to make excessive comments because people might make comments about my name or my whatever. So But you know, as you all know, catfishing means it's a way to like get a person to go to a place and everything like that, and then your whole story was a lie. So yeah. So to be clear, folks, I don't catfish. I don't do that to people, and I don't want to get catfished. So I'm going to be pretty conscientious about the scenarios that I do enter into for that very reason, you know. But yeah, but I don't know. It may not mean anything like that. For example, like when I spent time in Oklahoma, one of my favorite places to go to was the Martin Nature Park, and they're filled with parks that have like catfish everywhere. And so I really learned to like that area for that was one of the reasons why I loved it so much. I loved Oklahoma City. I lived there for about a year and some months working on while I was in the wireless industry. And yeah, well, that's cool, man. Like, look, if this person is cool, then I'll check them out. You know, again, I'm sure they might say something about my name that would be like, yeah, whatever. So, but yeah, if you want to send me an email with something like that, go ahead. Not in the chat though, if you don't mind. Okay, cool. Hey, if you guys say so, then I'll check it out. So sorry if I said something that might seem whatever, but I'm a little bit so you know what I'm saying. You can understand like why a person that's been through some of the things that I've been through, if you've followed my material for a while, that would be a trigger word. And let me tell you something, folks. When you do this, a lot of times you'll get people doing that. That's kind of their thing. But I don't know. I tend to have this a strong faith level in people that are intelligent and have some military background. So that is something that would interest me to learn more about. It's not like I go there exclusively, but I like people that are similar to me in that they need to have tangible evidence and don't just hold on to a crystal and go like, this is cool and I know it does something. I'm like, but think about why it does something, right? Like we've talked about, there's little bits of the crystal and sand all over the place. That's why when you're in the desert, you'll see lots of this quartz in some certain parts of the desert, but it's not like whole quartz in a lot of these areas. It's just like little sprinkles of it. When you're by the beach, you're going to see lots of this quartz crystal in the sand also. It glistens against the top of it in this very luminescent way. All right, think about what I just said. The crystal near the beach rests in the sand in this very luminescent way. Okay. Then what you have at the beach is the elements, water transitioning into what is the earth and water into the land, but you also have intense air, water, land. Ah, so you have this combination where elements are meeting in this really kind of brilliant way. I guess fire isn't represented in there, but you see what I'm saying? It's the ocean and the beach in particular is right where water transitions into the land. It's nothing but expanses of water for miles and miles and hundreds of miles leading into this place where it's nothing but land for hundreds of miles. And there's obviously exceptions to that because there's earth underneath the water and there's, water bodies on earth. But you see this transition between where water's dominant to where land is dominant right there on the coastline. And I think that that's why a lot of the quote magic and synchronicity happens at those locations. It is because of this exact element relative to human brainwave. Because let's be real here. What's inside the soil is surrounding your pineal gland. Okay. This crystal is inside your soil. It's also inside your pineal gland. So when you get back to this chart, why do thoughts become things? Why is it so powerful by the ocean? Why did me focusing on, like I got engaged one time by the ocean? It was a really powerful experience. Like it literally anchored information about us there that just kept on living on. It was a very strange thing. And it wasn't like, the relationship did. It was just that there's something about what we were focused and concentrated on while we were there that got anchored into the soil. And it was also near a pyramidal structure at Hug Point. Like when those things happen, and again, that's what reminded me more recently about my experience at the Edgar Cayce Center. I realized there's something very similar going on. Edgar Cayce Center is in Virginia Beach. Virginia Beach is right there by the ocean. I experienced pretty intense emotions of all varieties there with the person there by the ocean. And also at the Edgar Cayce Center, they range from spiritual to argumentative. similar to the situation that I had before when I was at the other beach. And again, strong feelings, strong emotions in tandem with this combination of water frequency, of land, and that unique layer that exists between the sand and the water. There's something to it. All right. Oh, okay. Well, thank you for saying that, guys. So I've got those who can't see the chat, and later on, I've had people here kind of commenting about one of these other people. So just, I guess, send me their information sometime, and then if it looks good or resonates with me, I'll consider having a larger discussion here on the channel. All right. So Inchworm was talking about healthy and unhealthy frequency in the body. Yeah, I think sorry, if you don't mind, I'm going to put your comment up. It says they're trying to find out the healthy frequency and change on an unhealthy frequency on the body. And then you said, can you combine it with the Rife device? And can you do two different readings on the body, like one from the feet and one from the chest? Okay. So the way this works, just so you know, is that BioWell system that I show you here. This will actually take everything that you're discussing, but it's not an analog needle. So it depends on what you're looking for with your question. If you want to see something like this, that's an analog, more like individual measurement that you have to do part by part right at the moment, and touch the plate with the probe, or or what you can do is you can mount these meters. James DeMayo has a whole thing on this. Actually, you know what? Maybe, no, I can't do that actually, because I could get copyright struck for that. See, if I try to play somebody else's material, I can get my channel taken down, or the clip will get delayed, and I don't want to have that happen. But if you go to James DeMayo's website on the Orgone Lab, and you look at his various studies on using the helionosis meter, I do believe he published some things there. And the helionosis website itself will actually show you step by step how to do the exact measurements you're talking about with one of those meters. Then it's just a matter of procuring one of the meters, which, good luck. I mean, you can get them, and I'm not going to discourage you from getting one. I'm just going to tell you that there's a lot of people that are that don't want this to be seen. So, oh well, hey guys, look, I want you guys to know too, man, especially if it's a person that has some military experience and they've had a lot of things go on with them. I'm all the more about helping them out or working with them even to a greater degree, because I don't like them to be maligned. But yeah, you're right. There's some dark forces out there. There's some people that fake being those things as well. But if it resonates with you and you think that they're a good person, then yeah, I would absolutely support their work and try to reach out to them if I can. That's important to me, I think, especially because this type of information really does go against the grain of things that are taught directly within those organizations. And I think that right now, what we really need in our country that'll save America, I think this is actually very important. I really wish we had the modern military taking this topic as seriously as they did in the 70s and 80s, because right now they're not taking it seriously at all. As well, I think in some pockets they are, but they have an uphill battle against people that inform the military. This is the big conundrum in the U.S. and one of the reasons why I tell people, like, I don't write anybody off for any reason like that. It's because most of my information was culled from declassified military documentation and declassified military research. And so I do believe that what we have in the United States are quite a few people that are in this modern military that are at odds with the groups that actually did the research on a private level, like SAIC and Leidos, who have historically maligned our military, lied to them about all this research. You can find all the evidence of this in the Stargate Project. And this is the sad part, guys. The Stargate Project was effectively hijacked by the CIA. And if you ask me, the CIA never has its interests in the better, in the good treatment of our vets and our soldiers. Never. In fact, as far as I can tell, the function of the CIA seems to be putting them in harm's way as often as humanly possible under false pretenses, getting them to have to go to various places around the world and be in all these different conflicts away from their families, stressed, traumatized, creating stress and trauma to their families as well. And so who benefits from that, folks? I mean, really, I would really hope that what we get from this is a greater understanding of all the ways that we've been psychoenergetically and bioenergetically manipulated for this exact reason. Whenever there's a war, the people that do the harvesting of this energy, they get an amplification of it because there's links between the family members of the soldiers and them being apart from their families. That's a psychoenergetic link that's exploited by these people. Okay. And so separating families is a huge part of what the dark workers do, getting them to have damaging their relationships with their families and then pulling them apart and creating psychoenergetic links that are rooted in trauma and stress is very powerful for people that gain influence from that methodology. And I would not be saying this the way that I do unless I took it very seriously. I'm not saying that to make anybody feel good or whatever or bad about the vets. It has zero to do with that. This is exactly the dynamic that caused like the love frequency things. There was, intense loving feelings going on. There was the water frequency. There was separation. There was people. There was me thinking about the person I was separated from, and the binding psychoenergetic link that occurred about thoughts become things relative to all that. So I know that it exists in this other form factor, and they would absolutely, because the people that do this, they don't care about people. This is all a psychoenergetic chess game to them. Removing people from their families is a big part of it. Lying to soldiers, lying to the American population means nothing. And just keep in mind, folks, like you do understand the whole. Do I have to show that slide again from SAIC? I mean, this company that's lied to get our soldiers into multiple conflicts. You might, if you follow the research that I've done, I've said on multiple occasions, the same people that ran the Stargate project, that was Science Applications International Corporation. Nearly all the data was with them at the end of that project. They had like 80 or 90% of all the information and all the records and all the research. All right, that's the same company that has on multiple occasions provided false intelligence. One of their biggest examples was David Kay, who lied to get us into the Iraq conflict and then went back and forth on his story to such a degree that now people don't even know what role he played in that. But look it up, David Kay, Iraq, SAIC, and you might be interested to read an article called Washington's $8 billion Shadow that has all the details about David Kay and the manipulation of the information relative to the Iraq conflict. They are big, big liars. Anything that they can do to cause that kind of strife, they do it. Then you have to understand what the game's been the whole time. You have to zoom out from that. All right. Because I don't even want it to be about like because government or because CIA. No. This is something that goes back centuries. It's a bloodline battle. It's about exploiting people's plasma field to make one group more powerful and weaken the other. And one of the ways that they do it is through just eugenics. And one great way to create large swaths of psychoenergetic fear and priming of fear within the collective hive mind is through war. And so they've tried multiple times lately with the virus. That didn't succeed the way they want to. In fact, I would say, if anything, the virus has almost backfired on them because it's made people more awake, more aware, and more willing to push back. But that's also revealed just how dark these people will get once they know they've been backed into a corner. Like they just go for full on evil. And I would argue that even that I would argue that that's a DOR toxicity that they're experiencing. I mean, I want to call it what it is. People that are that intensely evil and negative, they really have what's called, if you ask me, it's a dormant or dark orgone radiation toxicity. The same way you can be exposed to nuclear radiation and it makes you sick, you can be exposed to orgone radiation that makes you ill and sick. It'll just sap your life force out of you, but it doesn't go just anywhere. See, creating large spectrums of DOR energy are effective, I think, partly because the people that have researched it the longest have actually applied the word deadly to the D in DOR, which actually gives it that effect. I think if you referred to it as dormant or dark, it wouldn't have had the same effect. So part of the game was psychoenergetically redefining human energy concepts where you enter in the death cycle, which is not necessary. I think if you simply change the research like I've been trying to do, honestly, it's just that nobody really takes a person from my background as seriously, I think, as they should. And, it's because a lot of people are like biologists and have all the lab equipment and things like that. And I'm just some guy that was a radio frequency technician slash engineer. But let me tell you something. What I did learn from that is that type of experience is very good at figuring out human energy concepts, and it does put you in a better than average place to figure those things out. Okay, well, that's cool. Hey, you know what, Yurok, then I don't want to make any assumptions using about their name or anything else like that, and just make sure that you tell me that, like, send me an email with some of their information, and I'll definitely take a look at it. Could you clarify what you said about Parsons and Crowley? Are you saying that you actually, so Yurok says that they've met family direct dependents of, descendants. Is that what you meant? Did you, so sorry, I'm not trying to correct you or anything like that, but you met direct descendants of Parsons and Crowley? I don't doubt you, by the way. Yeah. I've done material on Parsons and Crowley too, and so again, I think that whole relationship between Jack Parsons and Aleister Crowley and L. Ron Hubbard. See, that's the part that most people never mention, is the whole L. Ron Hubbard aspect of it. That was a twisted union. And guys, this actually made me even rethink Crowley a little bit. I'm never going to be a Crowleyite or join a Crowley religion. That won't happen. But I did have a conversation with a person that has a greater familiarity with Crowley. And again, Robert Anton Wilson doesn't have a negative feeling about Crowley either. He actually thinks that the guy knew a lot. And if you just read some of his work straightforward, it's not as like whatever. But like when you get into his magical workings, that's when I like read just like a couple paragraphs and I'm just like, I can't look at this. Like, to me, I feel like even absorbing it into my subconscious is damaging. Maybe that's just me, but I don't open myself up to it. But I am aware that within the relationship that existed between, you know what, maybe, wow, you know what, Yurok, I don't know if you've ever seen it, and it wasn't going to be part of this material, but I can show you something about what's going on with the whole Jack Parsons, Aleister Crowley thing, if you guys are interested. I mean, this is full. I was trying to keep this more of a spiritual discussion, but we can go there if you want. Or maybe I can do another live stream later today that covers that topic. But what I was hoping to achieve here, though, honestly, was partnerships and trying to get a better feel for who wants to do one of these types of sessions where we measure the energy of a church or a spiritual center or a place that's a healing center or a healing location that people know has better than average energies there, and to get that going like as soon as possible. I don't really want to wait anymore, folks. People have the thing I've learned is that, like, the more I studied Uvarov's research, there's a discussion that was going on within his material that when the Mechanics of Negative Energy article, where he said that, or it might be Positive and Negative Energy, I can't remember, but he said that the pyramid builders, like, there's no way in hell that a functioning pyramid that actually did what it was supposed to would have been built by slaves. So a lot of the stories that you find surrounding like Egyptology are likely corruptions or falsifications of the information. They want you to believe that they were tombs or death chambers. They always apply death and slavery to a concept that was actually life and life affirming and energy flow within the positive orgone radiation spectrum. And then constantly coming in and going like, no, man, that's where they buried those people. That was a death chamber. That was a this, that was a that. No, as far as I can tell, the pyramids, they were re-radiating positive orgone radiation, and it was using water frequency from the flow underneath the pyramids and then sending them up into those waveguide tunnels as timing signals that also was programmed with the water frequency of the waves that were going on underneath. And so the energy, I think what winds up happening is all the elements that are in the soil, all the quartz and everything else like that, that matches what's in that water that's flowing underneath the pyramid. You have the king and the queen. You have the Ka, the male, and the ba, the female, and you put one in one chamber, one in the other chamber. That's why they were the kings and queens chambers, not tombs. And so you're getting the female energy and the male energy. Then the water frequency travels up the waveguide, zigzags, and then enters into the kings and queens chamber. And then look, within that, if you've ever seen those diagrams, they've got like the whole pyramid on top of each chamber. So as in addition to that energy going up into the zigzagging tunnels, it also goes into the male and female chambers where their pineal glands process the ka and the ba, because you need the male and the female for this to be fully complete the life affirming energy. If you really want to do it the right way, you need both energies. Wow. So yeah. So you're saying that. So yeah, Iraq is saying things like DuPont, Rhodes, and Collins family all have vacation homes next to where you grew up on an island just off Connecticut. That's interesting. And if it's close to Montauk and Plum Island, wow, that's really interesting. I've actually, for a long time, I wanted to go do some studies near where Preston Nichols' space-time laboratories was, because I think that he was tapping into something using the Earth grid energy there, as well as his antenna arrays and all of his artificially generated, radio frequency signals from all of his transmitters. He had those unfamiliar. I've done some articles on Preston Nichols' research. Quite a bit of my early material surrounded that. And I need to do more, actually, because a friend of mine that helped bridge a lot of my knowledge over to Uvarov also shared with me a book called Music of Time by Preston Nichols. And that book is filled with bizarre information that'll make you rethink all kinds of things about how we structure reality and how timelines work. There's definitely something going on. I think people with Navy experience are probably some of the best qualified to go in either direction. They have the knowledge to go to the dark side very easily and manipulate this energy in their advantage. But the ones that are benevolent would be like some of the most knowledgeable and best people to understand this through. But my guess is that if you're from one of those groups and you're dealing with the information that comes from labs like SAIC and Leidos, you're going to be discouraged heavily from doing anything within these energy studies relative to water frequency. I think a big reason why is because of their use of underwater radar and their use of E.L.F. And if it's discovered that affects things in a negative way, then nobody ever wants to concede to that. They would rather just make it seem like there is no harmful effects, that it's all just a bunch of environmentalists, and tree huggers and things, but it's really not that. I mean, there is something that we have to consider about how we use frequency and how it affects everything that we do. And E.L.F, what's used in a lot of the things that are meant to penetrate underwater, that's extremely low frequency. It does match human brainwave. And so when you study things that went on within the alleged Philadelphia experiment or the USS Eldridge, it does make you wonder. I mean, they may have changed the story a little bit to make it seem like whatever, but All right, I'm going to get back to the energy study material really quick. Hang on. And again, what I'm trying to show you here is out in the desert is I did a series of articles in energy studies in Southern California where some of these movies were filmed. And I was also in another part of California. I guess it's also Southern California, but further away, but more in the desert and less near the water. So one area is close to the ocean and one area is close way inland in the desert. And I do believe it's because it's the exact dynamic of the water flow of the ocean, my ability to synchronize what I was focused and concentrated on. So literally, I'm watching the movie Deal of the Century. I'm by the beach. I'm at this 33-degree line. I'm thinking of the number 33. Space and time are somewhat illusory. They don't actually exist the way we think they do. So everything is this process in the human brain. It's the numbers we focus on. It's what we're creating around us all the time. I just figured that no matter how this all happened, that's really the psychoenergetic process that aligned me to these other filming locations as I moved further north or went from north to south or south to north. It didn't matter. But the 33-degree line was consistent because I was thinking about it. I was drawing the energy lines in my map software. And on some level, it makes it manifest. especially the things that happened to me in Santa Cruz with my name being Cruz. That was really trippy. That'd be a whole nother topic that would just be confusing to somebody on the outside. But I'll play this video real quick and be right back.
I'm out here at Saddleback. It's a park with a interpretive trail here. And I'm at marker number 2 in case anybody ever wants to replicate results. But if you look off yonder, that's towards LA. And we're out here in the desert north of LA. And this is the type of rock that's surrounding it. So a lot of quartz concentrations out here. In fact, just to the west is Quartz Hill. So it's a dry area, but lots of energy out here. And what's interesting about this spot in particular is that it actually goes 33 degrees. Everything that's filmed in Hollywood, North Hollywood, including films that I've done research on, like Thank God It's Friday, a mostly forgotten disco film from the 70s that was filmed at 333 La Cienega Boulevard. It has all kinds of strange alignments out here. There's also a really obscure horror film called Waxwork that not a lot of people remember, just about, a haunted wax museum. And anyways, just giving you a little bit of background on what brought me out here. In addition to that, just to the east of here is where Buckaroo Banzai was filmed. And so since I'm on the 33-degree line from Los Angeles, Hollywood, where all those films are, like I said, over there is where it all is. And then effectively, if you were to go to one of those filming locations way off there in LA and aim it this way towards me, it'll line up right on this park. Okay, that's what I was showing you guys with that Masonic thing yesterday, how they do angles and azimuths. Okay, well, why do they do angles and azimuths? Well, it's because of what they know about what's underground, you guys, where the concentrations and the threads of quartz are, where the influence is. All right, that's why this research relative to Hollywood and these geographic locations is very relevant, because they don't go these places for no reasons, guys. A lot of times there's things that are happening in parallel. So I just wanted to show you really quick here my measurements, because I don't want to have to go through the whole showing you my setup thing. It's a little bit boring, but this is the highest reading I've got so far. I'm up on a hill as much as I can get up here. Again, guys, you can see it's on a slope. There's not that many high spots you can get to. This is one of the only publicly available parking spots that I can get, where I could even set this up really quick without having to be chased off and gone elsewhere. But you'll see the meter showing 62 on the multimeter, although it's really weird because the analog meter is really showing like this really high reading. And I usually find some degree of correlation between the two, but my multimeter just ran out of juice really quick, so hang on. There it is. Okay. It turns off on its own. But you'll notice here that wherever we're at, positive orgone spectrum, pretty heavy with orgone out here, which I would expect. I mean, look at the crystal in this rock. You can see it. It glows and it kind of shines and glistens in all this rock. So a lot of life energy out here, folks. So why do you think Hollywood taps into these quartz concentrations? Why is it so important to know where all this is? Why do they line things up at 33.33, right? Why do they do that? Well, probably has a lot to do with my research, you guys. And we're learning a lot here. And when I get this, the next level of spectrum photography, you'll really see. Thanks. Hey guys, just wanted to give you a better look of some of the background here. Isn't it beautiful? This is a Saddleback. And then when you're out here, it's all like all this rock here is just filled with quartz. So a lot of energy in here, and it feels really good, to be honest with you. It feels it's a nice feeling for the desert. It's a lot different than when you're further inland. There's not that buzzing feeling. It's pretty nice.
So why do you think that is? I'm still in the desert. There's not a lot of water out there, but I did observe that there seems to be this quartz concentration. So here's what I really think is going on, folks. I think there's a tuning process that exists in some of these areas relative to our pineal gland and the quartz that's in the sand. And when you get heavy concentrations of the quartz threads and the granite threads of soil, that oftentimes they travel along these energy lines for whatever reason. And White Boy earlier said something that was interesting too, or asked a question about it that I didn't really think about until just recently. Well, I mean, I've thought about it before, but I meant to circle back on it with you. Sorry, bad term there. the point is that like if there is underground facilities that are being used out there that are kind of draining the resources, then maybe some of this that's going on is a little bit of dousing, because naturally if somebody were doing things underground, they would also be redirecting water underground. So, you know, again, what little water there might be in the desert is a lot of times stolen and taken underground, is my intuition. But my gut tells me that that's probably not going to be that way for very long. I do think that quite a few of the places that have been deserts for a long time are actually going to be restored, and there's going to be water flowing to different regions of the desert. There does, excuse me, there does seem to be things like that going on lately. A lot of earthquakes and weather events and things of that nature. So I don't think that I'm entirely off base on this one. I've actually had this thought going back all the way to 2016 is when I first found like a whole bunch of information that made me think that here's the deal. You can accept this or not. What I think is going to happen is out near, shoot, I just put it on the internet. There's a name for the place. Hang on. I want to make sure I get this right. Hang on here. Profile, media. All right. I posted this thing that had like a visual of it. Here it is. I put something on the level of an eighth continent, I intuit, will rise from the ocean after a series of earthquakes that will shift the water away from this region. Much of the displaced water will arrive in deserts where droughts have been persisting for ages. This is a great balancing. So there it is. It's near Bora Bora and French Polynesia. Now, it's really weird. All I can tell you is it happened a long time ago. I had this very strange intuition that there was going to be something that would happen out there. And a lot of these feelings that I've had in the past were, I don't know, guys, I'm not going to tell you I'm Edgar Casey type of a person, but quite a few things that I had intuited about like positive events did actually wind up occurring, you know. Hang on really quick. And this is one thing that I think is actually going to happen. And so as a result of it happening, that a lot of these places where people have been displacing water, stealing it from other areas and funneling underground for their, you know, like their silos and their elite bunkers and things like that, that type of intentional displacement of a natural resource that's for everybody, there's a karma cycle to that. And what winds up happening is that those people that don't understand, like once they have an awareness of what they're doing and don't kind of, I guess, repent, then they're going to be faced with that happening. And so I think that out in Nevada in particular, there's quite a few places where they are putting things underground, especially in that part of the desert. And again, it's always been a desert community and things like that, but a lot of the resources are just sort of funneled into these places artificially. And it looks all dead and like nothing's going on above ground when there's actually quite a bit of things going on underground. And if you don't believe that, there's records that would support how many underground facilities there are all across the country. I keep my own database of former Titan. Let's see, I think my database has Titan missile silos, Nike missile silos, Minuteman silos. I'm not sure if I mapped Polaris ones or not. Definitely Titan, Minuteman, and Nike. I have extensive databases on anything that I could get that was on the level of a significant underground bunker that has been decommissioned and is now like resold. I was really tracking those heavily, and America is cut up like Swiss cheese underground. And what's happened to a lot of those areas, they're no longer serving any military function. I'd say a huge chunk of them, they're not serving any legitimate or even illegitimate military function. It doesn't really matter what your perspective is. They're just being purchased by people that are rich, and then they go down underground and they completely redo everything so they have a place to go in the event of, you know, everybody figuring out what they are and what they did. some people just want it as a safe place to live, and others are just planning on basically staying down there indefinitely while they make everything a mess up here. And that's not something that can really happen psychoenergetically. They must understand the karma cycle by now. That's just not going to work. You can't run around destroying, everything up here and then think you can just tuck away down there. So again, I'm not saying this out of any sort of vengeful, whatever messenger of God kind of sense, except that, yeah, that's going to be their karma for making a mess out of us all psychoenergetically. What's going to wind up happening there if they don't repent and start bringing back the resources where they were supposed to be from. I do believe God offers people, even within the field of psychoenergetics, the opportunity to repent. Yeah, I agree. I think what Edgar Casey said about everybody being able to do it. I think most people do have the ability. It's just how much you study and you work on it. But all right, back to that thing. Sorry for the interruption there.
But here it is, folks. 33 degrees. Well, it's 213 that way, but 33 this way from Hollywood. I'm in Twin Peaks. It's between like San Bernardino area and Victorville, and I'm doing a life meter measurement. It's up on top of the mountains. We're around a lot of foliage. You can see the kind of trees that we've got in here. It's kind of it's a little bit of a mix of some residential, as you can see up there, and then there's this park here where it kind of runs downhill. And so what I'm looking for here is like kinetic energy relative to the trees. And so I'm up here at Twin Peaks, see, and then water flow down towards the trees. And then we're just going to see how this compares to like, the desert. We were just in the desert. It took me about an hour to get up here. And now we're going to do this. So let's test to make sure we're okay. I'm set to number 1. We're fine-tuned to 4. It sets my multimeter to 0. I'll test my probe really quick to see if it goes about 50%. It does. Okay, so we know that's working. Now let's plug this in by the tree. Goes in nice and easy there. And so right there, it's showing about 51. Strange, right? You'd think more. See, it goes down to 0 again. All right. Another one at 51. Sorry, guys. For some strange reason, as soon as I got here, they started down the street. There's a playground, and they just started to like make a whole bunch of noise right as I was starting my test. But I have to get this done sometime, and I can't just keep starting and stopping. So sorry, guys. Don't mean there to be distractions. But yeah, we're getting about 51 everywhere around here. So it's interesting, right? We're right here next to a tree, and we're getting about 51 where we got like 55, 56, 57, and that range down there in the desert. So it's a little curious. I would expect there to be more energy in an area like this. Yeah, see, looks like we're at about 51. 52 is about as much as it gets around here. But you will notice that the meter is at least within the positive orgone range. So interesting. Honestly, guys, I thought we would get stronger readings by a tree near the water and things. So I might try another spot here in a second.
So I have an idea why we didn't. It's that we're also really close to commercial power, and there's an apartment complex that was right next to that area. And so I think it's this combination of like whatever like natural energies that are there, they're not untainted. It has to get around like a strong electromagnetic field that's from the power grid. So that was kind of the value in me going to some of these other areas, like out in the middle of the desert where there is no commercial power nearby, or it's far away from where the location I was at. So that could have a lot to do with it. Um, hang on really quick. I already did the Silver Lake one and showed you that. You know, if I remember correctly, this facility I think is going to be one of the things that's used to like. Oh no. Yeah, I think they're going to turn this into a big lithium like mining operation out here, which is really strange that I happened to like go to the place where I think it's going to happen. If I remember correctly, that's what it was.
Hey everybody, I'm out in Boron by the where they manufacture borax. Since borax has been considered like one of those things, it's like kind of like a, I don't know, cure-all or whatever. It can do all kinds of cool things, right? Add it to your laundry, you can get rid of all things. Some people even eat it. Anyways, so see the solar panels there, the entrance. There's the factory. The visitor center's closed right now. Not that we'd really be down with that, but anyways, I thought I'd give you a quick measurement here. And so it's looking like we have 0.46 as far as the relative measurements. And then as far as the spectrum of orgone that it rests within, it looks to me like we're sitting just above 35, 36, somewhere in that range there, within the negative spectrum, within the DOR spectrum. So again, very desertous out here, not a lot of life. But I was kind of curious, like what difference it would make with there being a boron factory here. So that's really was kind of at the root of it. Why I decided to pick this location. I just thought, hell, I'm not that far away. They got a visitor center, so that's our measurements, 0.46. And then here by the factory, it's about 36 in the DOR spectrum of radiation. So thanks for joining.
All right. So that's most of like those. I have more clips on that, guys, but I'm not sure how interesting it's going to be unless you have it, contextualized. I did things next to solar panels. I did things next to lakes out in the desert, all kinds of different environments. But I just need more ways of testing. I need more, and honestly, it helps to have another person around to do the tests with. And I find myself oftentimes in environments where things will be good when I arrive to some degree, or I have some of my stresses taken away, but I don't necessarily have the right environments through which to do the research in. And I want to be able to focus on the research if it's possible. So at the moment, I would say if this intrigues anybody and they want to learn more things about Rife technology, about orgone, about energy healing, about all those types of things, I am equipped and prepared to do all those things. But again, I would need to be around people that have a strong intellectual curiosity about it, because otherwise my research just kind of goes down the drain. And that's kind of what happened to me for a while there. I was doing really good with the research, but I'm usually in these dynamics where I have to choose between financial or living stability situations relative to the research. I can almost never achieve both simultaneously. So now anymore, I'm not even trying necessarily to have both, although that would be great. I mean, if I could go someplace just even for like a couple weeks where somebody was like, I want to learn everything about this. I want to use these meters. I want to take some measurements and then see how I feel about all these different topics, then that's kind of what I'm looking for right now. Anybody who wants to do that and wants to work side by side and just do like a research thing, and then, we can go from there. And if it's a group of people or a location where there's more than one person of interest that wants to do this, that's even better. So I was hoping that I knew there were some people in a few different states that demonstrated interest, but now I'd like to know that if I arrive someplace that it's not just going to be that people are thinking about it or kind of interested. Like, I want to know who wants to do this, who is taking it seriously, who wants to start doing this like sooner than later. I have them. I have the test equipment. I can do bio measurements for people. And so it's just really, I'm looking for that kind of exchange of ideas and help out with the research, hold cameras, and actually help, even learn how to use the probes. And that's the thing. Like, it wouldn't be like a one-sided thing. I'm really just trying to find somebody that wants the training, or just to learn what I've learned. I don't necessarily want to call it training because I have a lot to learn. Um, that I can actually show you how to set up these meters. And if you took it seriously, and then you were at ever a time where you could get your own resources and your own equipment, then you would be like a node in a network of people that's performing the research and spreading the learnings. That's what's mostly important to me at this point. I already kind of gave up my ability to make a lot of money, career wise, but I do think this is sort of like spiritual work at this point. I think that part of my mission here in this physical plane, if you want to say that, is to bridge spirituality to science and biology, is to show people that this is exactly how the Holy Spirit works through all of us. It's a science concept. It's not something you should have to guess or think of as a mystery. That if you believe in God, then God can and does flow through you. End of story. Now, the Luciferians believe it. The Satanists believe it. So don't you believe that there's an inverse of those things with creation energy? That's what I would like to just sort of like help people understand a little bit better. And this is all possible, okay? We can actually achieve this. So is there anybody that's in this stream at the moment that feels like they would be interested in that? If you are, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go get my information here again. I'm going to put it here in the chat. And then for very briefly, what I would like to do also, I'm going to do this. And then I'm also going to do another thing where I hand out one of my numbers, okay? And again, I'm going to ask that you respect this information. It's not going to stay permanently inside this. This is only for the audience that's in here right now. And I'm going to put another piece of information in. I'm not going to say it out loud. But if you're serious and you take these things seriously and you would like to work with me sooner than later on this, I'm going to put another way to contact me, because I don't have a lot of faith that I'm getting all my emails. I had a lot of people that demonstrated an interest in this that said they were going to message me. And I did get some emails and I did get some messages, but I'd say most of the people that seemed like they were really serious, like we keep going back and forth in this email thing or in this comment thing, but like I'm not getting whatever messages I think that they're sending me. Okay. So this is just another way. I'm going to put it in the chat really quick. And again, I'm going to tell you what this is for. I don't want for everybody to suddenly start calling that. It's so that if you have a phone or something like that and you don't mind just sending me, you don't have to, guys. I'm only asking for the people that are very serious about this, specifically for people that are serious about this topic. If you are interested, that number is about reaching out and saying, hey, I hear you, I'm interested, let's talk after your stream or whatever. That's what it's there for. I'm not going to keep it in there much longer. I'm going to leave it here in the live chat while I'm still on, and that folks that want to find me via those two information sets, you can do it. But my intuition is that when I've tried to share this information with certain people, that it's just simply not making it to them, and they're not even seeing it. Even right now, folks, I've noticed that like everything went down on the numbers as soon as I put all this information on the screen, which makes it seem even stranger. So yeah, I would encourage you, like if you are interested, use that information you see down there inside the chat or wherever it is on your screen. I'm not sure how you guys are seeing it. All right, so that's I'm gonna leave that up there for a bit, and I'm trying to think of what else. Oh, okay. The whole point of this, guys, I forgot. The whole point of this was to share with you the Bosnian Pyramid study. So we're not done yet. This is where I'm going to show you an example of how we can measure a church or a synagogue or one of these healing centers. Okay. So God, I cannot believe I've been going on 2.5 hours now and didn't even get to the Bosnian Pyramid thing. Shame on me. All right. Sorry about that. Because this was the whole crux of the conversation, but we started getting off on other topics. I'm going to do a whole thing on this separate from it that's shorter anyways. In fact, I might get back on later tonight. I probably will. But this is something that was done by Dr. Karatov about the Bosnian pyramids. And so those unfamiliar, they discovered these pyramids in Bosnia. And of course, a lot of the standard Egyptologists and other people that, you know, are more vested in the sort of death cycle. The kings and queens chambers were actually tombs model of slaves built the pyramids type mentality. They all immediately jump on this and say that it's not real. They go, no, guys, that's just a bunch of pseudoscience. They didn't find anything out there. Yeah, they did. They really did. I'm sorry. What do you mean when you say, will I be live? What do you mean? I mean, I'm probably going to do a live stream later if that's what you're saying. All right, so I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So this is a presentation that was put on the Bosnian Pyramid website by Dr. Karatov. And so to give you some background, Karatov is the guy that built, or designed rather, with some other people, that GDV biowell system I showed you earlier. Yeah. So if your question is like, will I do, like, are you saying would I live stream the church study? I'd be willing to. That wasn't my plan, but I think that would probably be a good idea. It's just that I would want to have at least one done without it being on camera, like right away, just so I could work out the snags and make sure we have a really good, you know, I don't know, like, no, I think actually trying to do something live like that, as long as I was the only person on camera and it didn't require a lot of other things, you know. This is really strange how, like, right when I'm at the crux of this material, I've suddenly lost like 2/3 of the audience. That's really weird. All right, but on to it. So this is just a quick, these are the slides they're showing you about like the core concepts behind measuring human energy relative to Earth grid energy and those inside these types of facilities. And again, the way this works is like you put your fingers inside the camera, and it can do a whole map of your health and your wellness based on the GDV system. This is the environmental sensor, and again, I also have this just to show you guys really quick, so that you know that I'm not just whatever. And so what this is for, it's got the things on it here. So that's the biowell sensor, and it plugs into the biowell camera. And so just to give you an idea, I'm not saying this just to say it. I actually can do these measurements, okay? But again, guys, I need you to know, like, the tendency that I have is that once I get into a place where I should be able to do these types of measurements, all kinds of things will happen as far as like equipment failures or sudden drama that's inserted into my life that just shouldn't be there, you know, for whatever reason. And then like right as I'm about to start the study, just something happens. Again, it could just be drama. It could be life changes or suddenly having to go from one location to the other. Like I even said it to you guys in my live stream the other day. I was about ready to do this whole study because the house that I was at had a creek that ran through the back and a whole bunch of trees. And it was right at the changing of the seasons. And I thought, this is brilliant. This is a great way for me to actually go into an environmental study, do probe studies of the trees surrounding it and all kinds of other things. And it just, for some strange reason, like leading into when I was, every time I thought about doing it, started setting up my equipment, something would happen. It was so bizarre. And so what I'm really looking for is, if I do go someplace, that the people actually are going to treat it like, yeah, this is something that I'm interested in learning way more about. I want to actually be able to do this independently or get a group of other people where we go and do these studies. Like, I don't want to be the only person out there doing this. And there's a reason why. I need the other people to have good information through which we can compare against one another's information. We're not going to know what to expect in a whole bunch of different areas until there's more data. So just the same way that any good computing engine needs more data, whatever, to process and predict or create expectations around what you're supposed to expect, like I need to have a lot of people that are creating more and more of these types of studies, similar to what Dr. Karatov and these people at the biofield system do. And then we can compare one another's measurements against each other. So, like, for example, I can go to like different locations, produce a whole environmental map study. And then if it's a healing center, for example, we can look at what the energy signature looks like as it outputs, and then create a chart that says, all right, here's a healing center, here's a church, here's like in a basement where that's filled with electrical equipment and has all kinds of interference issues. Here is a place that's in the middle of the desert. Here is a place that's right by the ocean. And then we can just map out what the environmental readings are on all of these different types of places. And this article is going to show you examples of that. Okay. So this is the Bosnian pyramids, and anybody who's if you're not familiar with it, that's Dr. Osmanovic. Osmanovic. I always say his name wrong, right there. And he's the one that basically is kind of in charge of the archaeological expedition out there. And this is in a labyrinth that's underneath the pyramid. So beyond it being a pyramid structure, there's an actual cave and tunnel system that when people enter it and go to the center, they feel healed afterwards. They'll have there's people, if you get on his website or his channel, you'll see there's a whole bunch of people that had chronic back pain. That's my thing. I've had chronic back pain pretty much my entire life. I don't talk about it because I try not to be, a drama queen or king or whatever you call them. But I'm not trying to be like all dramatic about it, but I ain't gonna lie. Like, I've had these back pains pretty much since childhood. And they've always been kind of where the shoulder blades are. I've made jokes for years. That must have been where my wings got clipped. So there's sometimes actually where I'm going like, you never know. Maybe there was some muscle or tendon back there that was actually removed. Maybe not a wing or anything like that, but I don't know. It kind of feels that way because that's where I get tons and tons of muscle pains, and it goes all up and down my spine. And it's only gotten worse as I've gotten older. So I've been very intrigued by these healing centers and these healing locations because I do know there's times where I can be in a certain place and I experience almost no pain at all. So I do feel like there's something that's connected to the way, like the energies that are nearby relative to how that affects the human body. For example, currently I'm in a budget hotel, and the thing I've observed about a lot of these budget hotels is there's an over amplification of the electrical grid. It's almost like somebody's literally making the rebar vibrate to cause muscle twitches and pineal gland disruptions and event related desynchronizations for the purpose of extracting plasma and giving to another person. Kind of seems like that. I'm not saying, I'm just saying. That's just something for folks to understand. I can explain it better another time. But yeah, you can kind of tell when the energies aren't of a very good variety and there may be something deeper going on. But this is an example of a good spot. All right. So pyramid structure, tunnel system, healing. There's no, if you ask me, part of what makes this happen is the fact that there probably isn't a commercial electrical thing going on there that would be transmitting the fields of energy. I don't know. I mean, I don't know what kind of commercial light system is or isn't in this place, but So this study was done March 2017, Bosnia. It says energy in joules. So basically, what the GDV system does with that Sputnik sensor that I just showed you is it creates these charts. So you'll see it'll line up like this is what the energy level was at the sun and moon pyramid. This is what it was in the tunnel. The stone circle you saw them sitting at earlier in that photo, a tunnel chamber down here, and then the basement of the moon pyramid. It doesn't, the words don't line up because the text is too big, but you see how they had the different measurements at different locations there. So you can create these charts, and hopefully you see the value in this, because literally, like, so if you wanted to compare like this hotel that I'm staying in, for example, to like a healing center, you'd probably find that there'd be a huge difference between where I'm at right now compared to a place that's a healing center, like a very wide gap. Now, which one you would see, like, is it going to be represented in energy reserve? Is it going to be represented in joules? What will be the actual metric that increases or decreases? That's the even more interesting part. Then I think when you add in body voltage and body electricity measurements, which I can also do, then you're really onto something. So this kind of showed how people would go into the tunnel. Just to give you an idea here, these are all the different participants in the study. These are their names down on the bottom. And so what they're trying to show you is what their energy reserves were using the BioWell camera before and after. So before they went in the tunnel, after they went in the tunnel. Sorry, blue is before, red is after. So people almost across the board, if you follow this, you know, this person had like, I don't know, if like looks like about 45 to 50 on their energy reserve percentage. And after they left the tunnel, they were at over 90%. This person here had a 0% energy reserve. After they went in the tunnel, they were all the way up to 90 plus. So some of these people already are pretty high energy. They already have quite a bit of energy reserve, but they, and again, they still improved by going through the tunnel, but they didn't necessarily need to. But what you find consistent across the board is every single one of these people that entered this tunnel system that's underneath the pyramid all benefited from their energy reserve. They felt more energized. They felt like they could do more things afterwards. And those of you who like chakra charts more, these are also comparing how aligned your chakras are relative to your biofield. So again, if this is something that you're into and you want to actually be able to get charts like this for yourself, that is something that I could do if we meet up. This is something that I could give you in return for, you know, whatever. We can figure out how that works. But I could, if you wanted to study like how effective Rife technology is, for example, or if you wanted to study how going to church makes you feel better, or going to a healing center or a healing spring makes you feel better, this would be a way to show you that, okay, before you experience that, this is what your chakra system alignment was. After you experienced that, here's what it was. So again, this is showing somebody's chakra centers before and after the tunnel system. You notice that their heart became more aligned, the heart chakra here, the green dot. And then there's other representations of it within your biofield. They can show you that. And again, if you really look carefully at this, where the flares are, you can actually see some pretty, you know, not huge improvements necessarily, but this one definitely looks a little bit lower in quite a few different parts. And there's almost no empty parts of the flare on the side on this chart. And then it also generates these types of measurements where you can actually say, okay, the orange is before, the purple is after. It looks to me like this person was a little bit anxious about going into the tunnels, so they didn't really benefit by going into it. And then their energy levels were optimal before and heightened afterwards. So that's a little bit weird, but you know, hey, And again, there's another person before and after. Oh, wow. Okay. Let me see here. Uh, okay, dude. I'll look that up. Okay. But that's interesting. So, yeah, just so you know, I just got this from White Boy. He says he can't find my email in Gmail. All right, dude. So, this is why I did what I did earlier. So, this is for you if you're serious. You can send me a message. Guys, I really think there's some shenanigans going on with my email right now because there's quite a few people that said they were interested in doing what I'm talking about. And the ones that I really thought would send me messages back, I haven't heard from. And again, I keep getting like half communications from them either in comment sections or via these other things right now. Yeah, and just so you know, like my phone will go off when you do it. So if you do it, you'll actually hear a response here, hopefully, so that you know that I'm actually giving you something real there. And if not, I won't show your information online or anything else like that. But yeah, go ahead and use that, and I'll make sure to answer you back after this thing is done, or I'll at least verify with you that I got it. And again, that's for folks that I've talked to about forming groups with or doing like a seminar with. If you do just want to say hi or whatever, that's cool. But I'm just asking that it not get distributed widely or anything like that. It is a backup number of mine, so it's not a primary number. Um, you know, but it does work through my phone. It's just another way for me to like maintain communications with people in case anything happens to my other phone number. I always try to make sure I have another one because I experience so many things like exactly like this. But yeah, I mean, especially areas where like what I'm looking for is if you want to have all these exact same types of things that I'm showing you in this Bosnian pyramid study, like before and after measurements. What does your biofield look like before an activity? What does it look like afterwards? And you can see like this is actually providing data. This is a person that actually felt healed from the tunnel. So notice the flares. If you look at this biofield measurement, see how you're getting these flares in here that are kind of empty. You don't get a lot of information in this spot here. It's not like it doesn't have a nice, not like this one. It's a big difference. There's almost no flares in here or empty spots on the chart compared to this. Same person. This is before they went in the tunnel, and this is after. So you can see how much it improves certain parts of their body relative to their biofield. And if you think about it, that biofield is what makes your thoughts become things. The stronger your biofield is, the more influence you have on manifesting physical reality, the more your thoughts and beliefs and opinions affect others, and the more you can actually make things happen. So the people that have the best charts, and have the strongest biofields have a tendency to bend plasma more. They tend to bend the plasma field in ways that are beyond the average person. They can kind of make things happen. And this is why they're sought after. This is why they're sometimes experimented on without permission. And so then what you have here is just a series of this is before and after drinking water that they got from underneath inside the tunnel. So there is what they believe to be healing waters at the Bosnian Pyramid. So they're just trying to show you how people's biofields improve before and after with healing waters. Guys, I mean, I think this is really powerful information. I don't know what you think, but if you ask me, this is really how we can change things for the better, is by showing people that are more science minded that this does happen. This is how it works. And if you can just get enough people to understand the human energy concepts the way they truly are, instead of what's been sort of presented to us as fiction, you know, that's a little strange. That person didn't see again. I would be more suspect of their information on this if every single person always experienced something different. In this case, this person didn't seem to benefit very much at all. It aligned a couple chakra points. All right. So I did get a message. All right. Thank you for that. Just so you know. Okay, dude. Got it. So you said you're definitely interested. I got your text. I won't show it on there because your phone number is on it, but it didn't make a very loud sound, but hopefully you heard it there. I'll turn up my volume. So if anybody else does it, you'll actually hear my phone go bloop. And I really do got to get I got to figure out where there's a location where there's going to be like a few different people that want to do this. Okay. Yeah. Hey, there you go, Gibson. So if you want to, I don't know if you saw this in the chat, but I've been trying to get some of this information to some different folks. If you want to send me something, this is only if you can and would be interested in being part of one of these nodes of people that I work with and go to different locations. All right. Um, and again, if you just want to say hi, that's cool. I'm just asking that if it's going to be a regular thing, that it be about this issue and about achieving this. So, human stress level before and after drinking tunnel water. You can see that some people experienced that they were in an anxiety state before they went into there and drank it, and then they went to an optimal state of energy. So it actually calmed them down a little bit. Hey, got another one. Cool. All right. So we've got two so far. There you go. See, now we're getting some degree of communication flow here. But this is why I have to do things unconventionally, folks, just so you know. Like, I have no clue who gets my emails. And if you send an email to me and I don't send you one back, I'm just letting you guys know, like right now, especially, if I don't send you a message back, it's because I just didn't get it. Okay. That's why. Yeah, don't worry about it. Again, guys, just so you know, a lot of times I'm crazy busy with things and everything else like that too. And I'll do my best to at least answer back when I can, because sometimes I'm in like a travel situation or a work situation, or I'm in the middle of a study or something else like that. And I won't answer back right away all the time. Okay. But I did want to at least open up the pathway while I'm on a live stream, because I found that that's my way of breaking through the hacks. That if there's somebody that's on here and they actually go, okay, I got, like, whether it's just done the email or the actual number, like I did. I almost never do the phone number thing. It's, in fact, I think I've never done that. But what I was trying to do for a while when I knew I was getting hacked was I would do live streams by a window, and I would just, this would be a way to like verify to certain people that something seems to be getting jammed, that emails are getting blocked or intercepted. So the best thing I can tell you is that if you have not heard back from me and you are interested in this, then it's because I did not get the message. At a bare minimum, I would have sent something back to you that said, I'm sorry, I can't do that now, or thank you for your interest, or something like that. I would at least gotten back to you. Okay. So again, these are just some conclusions about what they learned at the thing. That there's no doubts that the Bosnian pyramids and tunnels demonstrate remains of the unknown, highly developed civilization. Their presence in the tunnels had a strong, positive, measurable effect on the emotional and physiological condition of the people who went through it. Level of energy activity of the environment measured at all sites was in the most beneficial range. And so again, this would be a sign to me that when they used meters like this, I have another study that shows you guys that somebody did a complete report with a life meter with the BioL, all of it. And they even went another level, taking like, they were doing like, what do you call it? Oh, like meters that can actually measure earth resonance through the probes, like through the, like what the signal level is at the areas. They did a whole series of data sets that I wish I had the gear to do, but as it stands, I've got some of it and I can do some of these measurements. Okay. All right. I'll probably be taking a little bit of a break and then doing another stream later, because I do want this to be kind of like an open session where we talk about these things. This was mostly supposed to focus on how to measure human environmental energy and bringing science to spirituality. Okay, so I did that as the core theme here, and I'm glad that was what we focused on. But what I would like, the ones that I'm going to be doing soon, is a heavy focus on, what are we doing next? What's the plans? If you don't want to say it in a live chat, that's fine. That's probably even better. but I do want to establish some groups of people that actually are serious about doing this and want to partner up. But you know, I've got to like make a decision on where I'm going to next sooner than later. So those who are interested, just know I'm very serious that if you say yes to this and you know we can work something out, you'd be surprised how quickly you could have your hands on this gear and working with me on making this a reality. It could happen very fast. So, and I'm very blessed in that there's a lot of very nice people that I've met through these chats and through this room, and I've had the opportunity to spend time with. And you know, any ability to expand on that and be around some nice people, I'm all for it. I was hoping that there would be an opportunity to go to one of these locations that I used to live in the Midwest, because I do have friends out there from the past that I think if I could get them interested in seeing some of this research, it would really intrigue them, and they maybe be interested in actually being a part of it at some point, you know. Because I know when I saw this type of data coming from my radio frequency background, I found it very, very compelling. It really made me rethink everything. And I would say another good thing to watch for people, if you haven't seen it before, is called resonant beams of frequency. That was one of the things that helped me understand this at a way deeper level and made me want to like change my mission in life and do these other things. So again, if you feel like we're similarly aligned and this interests you, I very much encourage you to send things. And let me see if I got your email there, Tina. I did, Tina. Thank you for that. I just got your email, so thank you. So far, just to be clear, I got 2 messages. One from White Boy. I'm not sure who else sent the other one because I don't have a name associated with it. Oh no, wait a second. No, I got 2 from White Boy. Okay, so I got 1 text message, or one person sent me a text message on this chat, and I got 1 email. If you want me to verify for you, let me know in the next minute. Otherwise, the time's going to run out. But I will be back on later this evening. I just got to sort of get some food in my stomach and just, you know, whatever. And I'll do another live stream. So if you didn't catch everything in this one, I would say don't worry about it. It's mostly just been kind of an open discussion, me playing these different clips. But the next one, cool, you rock. That's cool. So as long as I know to expect it, then I'll mention to you, or if somebody doesn't make it on this stream here in the next minute or so, then when we do another stream tonight or whenever, or maybe I could just I'll answer you back. Don't worry about it. Like whoever sends one, they'll at least get a response. But I was hoping to do it on the live chat so I could see if there wasn't a bigger hack going on, because this is just, anytime I'm about to do something good, you guys, the dark workers, they do what they do. And, you know, and it's something that I just expect anymore. I expect them to jam and intercept. They have all the means to do it. And I know one of the ways that they would try to disadvantage us doing a great work or something that's more peaceful in nature or more bridging spirituality into science and biology, they would be going out of their way to go aggressive with the hacks and acting like, you know, did I do that? That kind of crap. So anyways, I do appreciate everybody joining here today. And I will be back later. I'm going to try to follow up with some of the people that I just heard from. And seriously, if you are actually serious about this, I could actually get this going like way faster than you realize. And remember, I've got Rife things that I can help you out with, energy wellness. Got to use the word wellness. Things like the life meter, the BioWell, all to measure your progress and find out what works and what doesn't. If you want this kind of assistance, I can provide it, and I won't ask for anything. We can work that out later. Okay. So, all right, we'll see you later and talk soon.